Good evening. The regular meeting for the City Commission for Tuesday, July 8th will come to order. Please join me in silencing your cell phones. Madam City Clerk, please call a roll.
Commissioner Perrine.
Here.
Commissioner McGurk.
Here.
Commissioner Ashley.
Here.
Vice Mayor Martin. Here. Mayor Cleveland.
Here.
Thank you.
Police Department Chaplain Bev Richardson will now give the invocation. Please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I invite you to join with me in prayer. Gracious God, we gather this evening to give thanks to you for New Smyrna Beach and for the opportunity we have to live here and to serve you and one another. We give thanks for those who have answered your call to be in leadership in this community, for our commissioners, our mayors, for those in public service, our police officers, all those who do this. We also thank you, O Lord, especially this week, for Chaplain Dr. Pete Carter, who has served 18 years in his church and in this community. We give thee thanks, O Lord, that you continue to provide that leadership. Remind us all that we build upon foundations that we did not lay, and that we have the responsibility not only for caring for the world today and what you have given us, but for the future, for our children and our children's children. So I pray, O Lord, that you will grant wisdom to those who are in decision-making places, and that you will help us all to receive the gift of being here and the responsibility of caring for one another and caring for this land. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. And now, Bear Scout Wyatt Fike from Pack 443 will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. He's a rising third grader at Chisholm Elementary and a member of the Mensa and Davidson Institute for Young Scholars. He is a scout that has been awarded the Messenger of Peace Award for distributing over 100 books at his school after he noticed that people stood in line for books. He rounded up 100 books for his school. Come forward, if you would, Wyatt, and lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, and indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Wyatt. Please be seated. And congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Fife. Welcome back. I have missed all of you. Mr. Cowper, City Attorney, City Clerk, colleagues, yes, even you, Commissioner McGurk.
Oh, thank you. See, I knew you liked me. You were just holding out.
And if you don't mind, it would please indulge me a point of privilege here. Let's offer a moment of silence to those in Central Texas, in Kerrville, specifically at Camp Mystic. Can't imagine what they must be going through at this time. So we'll have a moment of silence, if you please. Amen. Thank you very much. Mr. Cowper, are there any changes, sir, to the published agenda?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I got a few changes that I would like to note. Item 8B and item 8C are being pulled from the agenda. I've got some issues that still need to be worked through on those two property acquisitions. So we will reschedule both of those items. Also, item 10E, which is the scheduled second reading for the proposed revisions to the landscape ordinance, removing that from the agenda. We will be making some changes to that to comply with the new state law. And again, we will present that to you again at a later time. And that will come back to you as from the beginning of the process as a first reading. And also wanted to note that 11A and 11B are on the agenda. They're noted as first reading and public hearing. Of course, that is incorrect. We don't do public hearings on first reading, so those are just typos. The public hearings will be on second reading, which will be on July the 22nd. So apologize for any inconvenience that may cause.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank you.
the clarification and the corrections. Very good. I'd like to offer congratulations to our Leisure Services team for an amazing 4th of July celebration. The fireworks, the events at the Brandon Center, the whole thing by Director Salazar was amazing. And hats off to the New Smyrna Beach Police Department for an amazing job. I know it was your biggest weekend of the year, Chief, so thank you very, very much for making it go so swimmingly well. At this time, I'd like to invite Director Salazar from Leisure Services to the podium with the children for a proclamation that the Commission and I would like to present regarding National Park and Recreation Month. The City of New Smyrna Beach proclamation recognizing July as National Parks and Recreation Month. Whereas the park and recreation is an integral part of communities throughout our country, including the City of New Smyrna Beach, and parks and recreation promote health and wellness, improving physical and mental health for people who live near parks and recreation centers. And whereas parks and recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impact mental health by increasing cognitive performance, well-being, and alleviating illness such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas parks and recreation encourage physical activities by providing space for sports, fields, trails, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas parks and recreation programming and education activities such as after-school programming, youth sports, seasonal camps, which are critical to the livelihood of childhood development. And whereas parks and recreation creates a community of economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and our parks and recreation areas ensure ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature, recreate outdoors, and whereas the U.S. House of Representatives have designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of New Smyrna Beach recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now, therefore, I, Freddie Cleveland, hereby designate July and is recognized as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of New Smyrna Beach. In witness whereof, I have hereinto set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed this 8th day of July, 2025. Congratulations, Rob.
Thanks for coming.
Just a sample of the great things going on in Parks and Recreations and Leisure Services, certainly at the Babe James Center. This time, we'll have a presentation of the annual comprehensive financial report from Ron Whitesides from Purvis Gray, our auditor. Welcome, Mr. Whitesides.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Good to see you again. For the record, Ron Whitesides. I'm a partner with Purvis Gray & Company, your outside independent auditors. With me today, I have Kevin Smith. He's the director who's in charge of the audit engagement. He supervises the team we have out here actually conducting the audit. And today is the culmination of the audit process. So we've completed the audit, it's been submitted to the state, and now we'll go over it at a high level at least for this meeting to talk about the results. First of all, I'll tell you the audit went very well. So this is our first year as your auditors, and so when you're new to a client, you're never exactly sure, what you're going to encounter. We knew that the finance director position had changed hands, so never quite sure, but I'm very pleased to report to you that the audit went very well. Your management team did all the heavy lifting. For those of you not real familiar with the audit process, there's a lot of work they put into it before we ever get here to prepare, and that's what makes for a good audit, smooth audit, and one gets turned around quickly. Last year's report was not submitted by the statutory deadline. This year's was, and it is our goal to improve on that performance next year as well, to continue to speed up the completion of the audit to get closer to year end. So I have a presentation. Rather than drag you through the 160-page book, we're going to touch on some highlights. These are things that all come out of the report. And if this is too high level and there are things I don't talk about that you would like to, please just let me know. I'm happy to discuss. So what do we do in an audit engagement? Obviously, we performed a financial audit where we opine on the accuracy of the city's financial statements. We also look at your controls that ensure that you get accurate information during the year for your use, for other users of the financial statements, for the citizens' use. We perform an examination engagement in accordance with Florida statute on how you handle your excess funds and how you utilize the CRA dollars. So both of those get special attention in the audit. And we also performed this year what are called federal and state single audits. So those are deep dives into some of your grant programs that are required under those grants. So the results, you've received an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements. That's the highest form of assurance we can give as the auditors. So that's what you want, and that's what you got. We had no findings related to your internal controls or compliance with laws and regulations. We had no instances of non-compliance with the grant programs as well. So grant programs can have a lot of compliance requirements, a lot of strings that come with those. Frequently, this is an area where we would have findings. We had none, so your team does a good job of managing all of the requirements that come with those funds. I mentioned we look at how you handle your investment of excess funds. So Florida statute requires that you not be speculative in that you prioritize security and liquidity. You did that, and there's rules about how CRA dollars can be expended. I will mention we also conduct a separate, there's a second book that is the CRA audit as well. That is also clean, unmodified opinion, no internal control issues. They would appear in both reports if we had any, but there were none. So that is also a clean report. And the Auditor General then finally requires that we determine whether the city faces a financial emergency, which essentially means you can't pay your bills on time, and that is certainly not the case here. These next couple slides deal with some things that might not be evident if you don't deal with audits very often, but a lot of what is in the financial statements are estimates. Not everything in there is historic fact. The big ones are the pension and the OPEB obligations. You hire outside actuaries to perform those. We review those calculations. They are quite complicated and significant to the financial statements, so that's just to make a user aware that not all of this is just historic fact. Some things can change. You did adopt a new accounting standard this year called GASB 100, but it had very little effect on the financial statements. All of the note disclosures are appropriate for our local government. We're required to disclose what we think the most significant disclosures are, and I think that's the pension and OPEB disclosure, simply because those are large obligations. The next item, adjustments detected by audit. So we had no significant audit adjustments. If your auditor is coming in and making a lot of changes to the books, that's an indication that you have issues on the management side with how they close and track the accounting records. We did not, so this was clean. There was one, what is called prior period correction, which that means last year's audit had an error. Last year we had the FEMA grant for hazard mitigation of individuals' homes to raise them or otherwise mitigate flood damage. It was just erroneously captured those improvements as a city work in progress asset in last year's audit, about $2.3 million. We wrote that off this year because it was never a city's asset. That was just an error. And then any other difficulties that you ought to be aware of in performing the audit. Again, we did not have any. Management did a great job getting ready for the audit. I'll take just a minute to hit on some financial highlights. So we're going to focus first on the general fund, and these numbers all come out of the book, but it's current year and prior year revenues and expenses in the general fund, the main operating fund of the city. You can see total revenues increased by $4.1 million. Most of that came through the tax line item, which is primarily property taxes. In 2024, there was both a millage and a valuation increase that drove that. And you see the intergovernmental decrease by $1.8 million. The grant I mentioned that did the hazard mitigation from FEMA for homes was about $3 million of revenue in 2023. And so that's what's driving that decrease. See that expenses are actually down from the prior year, down $460,000. That is because 2023, we experienced Hurricane Ian toward the end of that year. And so there was about $3 million of hurricane costs captured in 2023, not a similar storm in 2024. So that's what drove that decrease you see in general government expenditures. You'll also see there's a decrease in capital outlay. That just tends to vary by year. There was a lot of fleet vehicle purchases in 2023. And then the other categories are up some. That's generally payroll and benefits. Most of the costs of local government are, of course, payroll and benefits. So after transfers in and out and other financing sources, which is borrowings, the general fund operated a $3.3 million income for the year versus 1.6 in the prior year. So very healthy. And again, some of that improvement was because you didn't have the hurricane costs, of course, in 2024. But very healthy year for the general fund. When we look at where that leaves the assets and obligations, the general fund has about $24 million of assets in it at year end. That's primarily cash and investments. $3 million of obligations, leaving $21 million of fund balance. We break that fund balance down into various categories. The ones I'll mention, assigned means those monies are earmarked for something. It's generally the next year's budget in this case. And unassigned means it's available for any general government operation, which is at $18 million, which is about 44% of the annual budget. So a lot of times the topic comes up, well, what's an appropriate, but not excessive amount of fund balance? The Government Finance Officers Association has a benchmark that they recommend a minimum of 2 months be on hand. If you're a coastal community, my experience is it probably better be 3 or 4 because FEMA will eventually make you whole, but it may take a couple years for that to happen. You're at 5 months at 44%, so right where you ought to be in a good spot, in my opinion. And then the major enterprise fund of the city, excluding the utility commission, is the sanitation fund. You see a $600,000 revenue increase, a $400,000 cost increase. There was a rate increase, and hauler costs and landfill costs did go up. So the fund operated an $800,000 income this year versus $600,000 last year, so also in good condition. And that fund has a net position of about $2.5 million on hand at year end, so also in good financial condition. And then finally, the pensions. Of course, you have defined benefit plans for police and fire. You also have a little bit of participation in the Florida retirement system, but that's closed for your employees, so we don't really cover that. The plans both had excellent years in 2024. If you look at the bottom there, you see the additions and the deductions from the plan for the year, but the rate of return is really the highlight here. 22% for police and 19.25% for fire. So excellent investment performance years, well exceeding the targeted actuarial rates. What that means is that over time, when you do that, ultimately city and employee contributions go down as opposed to up when you're exceeding those actuarial targets. And where does that leave those two plans? $24 million of assets in the police plan, 29 in fire. They have calculated pension obligations by the actuaries at year end of 29 and 36 million, which makes them 81 and 80% funded. Up from 73% in the prior year. So that's the impact of those investment performance raising the funded status of the plans. For a reference and a benchmark, Florida Retirement System, which is one of the strongest state retirement plans in the country, is at about 83%. So you guys are kind of right in there. I would say based on other chapter plans I see around the state, which both of these are organized under, they're called chapter plans under a Florida statute, your typical funding levels, sort of middle of the road, I would say, sort of average. So all, again, all financial indicators are good. I should say when we look at those fund balance indicators, you know, when we're talking about the general fund and we're looking at that 44% fund balance and 5 months on hand, the one thing that doesn't take into consideration is it doesn't look at anything like infrastructure condition, right? So this is as much as the financial statements can tell us, really needs to be looked at in addition with your long-term capital plan to know what your other needs are, because the financial statements don't reflect those sort of things like infrastructure condition or growth needs. But anyway, in summary, a very good report, a very good audit process. You guys turned out to be a great client. Thanks for hiring us. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from my colleagues for Mr. Whitesides? Just one, Ron, would you opine about, not having been here the year before, you've done many other cities, would you say we were on par with others, leading or catching up?
We're talking about financial condition?
Yeah, and from a qualitative perspective, no doubt in my mind you got the numbers right, but just as your team looked around from a qualitative standpoint.
Yeah. So, you know, our process is we meet with a number of your department directors as well as the finance team. And I was very favorably impressed with everyone we met with. I think you've got a very qualified group of leaders here. And so that's, you know, the key to success, and have that culture that those sort of folks want to be here and want to work with the city. As I sort of talk through in the financial angle, you know, I don't see anything that tells me that there's any issues there. I would say you are on the plus side of, you know, as I would compare you to other local governments in terms of your financial condition. So yeah, I did not see anything from an audit perspective that gave us any concern, and everything every impression I had was of a well-run organization with a lot of capable employees.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
All right.
You're all
Thank
set.
you.
Thank you. So for the viewing public, those of you here tonight and those of you watching online, this is a very big deal. This is the city's, this is the residents' treasure, and we want to make sure it's handled appropriately and accounted for appropriately. And so I want to recognize the relatively new director, Joanne Drury. Joanne, please rise and be recognized for the outstanding job. Congratulations on your job. Next, and thank you, ladies. And next to her is a right-hand person, Shaliza. And so thank you both for doing a fantastic job. We're grateful. On behalf of the city and the residents, we appreciate you taking such good care of the treasure that we have. Mr. Manager, your report, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Wanted to follow on with your appreciation to the finance staff. Director Drury and Assistant Director Bola did a fabulous job. We have put so much time, effort, and energy this year into analyzing our financial condition and making sure that we are where we need to be. And I think this audit speaks very well for the efforts of the finance staff. And I want to give a shout out to Janet and Greg, Cindy, Sarah, Tammy, Ellen, Christine, Debbie, the entire finance team. They work exceptionally hard and have done a great job. And there is no rest for the weary, and we are moving on to the budget and have been for several months now working on the budget. We will have a public presentation and commission workshop on Thursday that will begin at 9 a.m. right here in the commission chambers. And we will have a presentation of the proposed budget for your review and comment at that work session. Also wanted to recognize our staff from Leisure Services. You mentioned our public safety staff from police and fire for keeping us safe this weekend. It was a fabulous weekend and everybody did a fabulous job, and I appreciate their efforts. Looking forward, I wanted you all to know that I've started conversation along with the Assistant City Manager Nybert about the future, particularly as it relates to transportation and preparing our city for the future growth and development that we know is coming. And we are beginning that process also through our comprehensive plan. You'll deal with some contract this evening for some updates to our comprehensive plan. But specifically, working with a consultant looking at some state and federal routes, Highway 44, the new proposed interchange that we have coming, and other state and federal routes and potential improvements that we need to make in those areas. So I just wanted you to be aware that we are planning and preparing in that regard. Also, we have had several inquiries recently about utility lines, some of them in poor condition that may be old and unused lines. I did speak with Director Chavez from New Smyrna Beach Utilities, and he and I met with several representatives of cable companies, AT&T and the like, and got some input and feedback from them. And we're working on formalizing a system so that we can notify each other when we see lines that may be a problem. Most of the lines that may be abandoned, they're completely harmless, they're just there. The companies may move them in the future, but unless there's a real need to do so, they're not going to mess with them. But they all were very cooperative, and so I'm very enthusiastic about where we're headed there. We did issue RFP for a project at the North Causeway, what we generally refer to as the AOB site. This is repairs to the rock revetment along the shoreline. I know that has been a long time coming for folks, have been asking about all of those repairs. And so we will have that bid opening July 22nd and getting that project underway. And lastly, short-term rentals have popped up on my radar screen as an issue. I've met with some concerned parties on that topic, and wanted you all to know that the Planning Commission has approved an amendment not directly related or pertaining to short-term rentals, but a general amendment pertaining to the advertisement of unpermitted land uses. And we believe that that amendment will significantly aid us in the enforcement of unpermitted short-term rentals. So we are continuing to work and shore up our efforts in that regard. And that, sir, is all I have.
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate the comprehensive report. Any questions from my colleagues? Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick one. Did the meeting with the communication companies allow us to remove defunct cables, And like the big AT&T boxes that are falling over? I mean, do we have any,
No, ma'am. The city nor New Smyrna Beach can touch those utilities. The individual utility companies have to make their repairs.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And then, Madam City Attorney, your update on charter review.
Good evening. So just to recap, the charter review, we started on April 1st, met twice a month, the first and third Tuesdays, ended on July 1st this past Tuesday. From the charter review, there's 7 main topics that were recommended to move forward to the commission for consideration for placement on a ballot for voter determination. One was to change the mayoral term from a 2-year term to a 4-year term. The second one was to bring back the primary where if you get 50 plus 1% of the vote in the primary, then you can be declared the winner and not proceed to the general election. Changing the city clerk from a constitutional officer to a city manager employee. Recommending that the commission's salary be addressed in the charter and also that it be increased. The mayor would get 75% of the county council chair's salary, and then the city commission would get 75% of the mayor's salary. So similar setup to what we have now. However, right now it's in our ordinances. They recommended putting it in the charter. They also wanted to revise the language regarding charter review to make sure it's done at least once every 10 years. There was some clarification of the language in our sustainability section regarding historic preservation, clarifying priorities versus mandates. And then there was a new section discussed for cultural arts to put in our charter the value we place on the arts and culture. Making sure that future commissions know that that's a priority for the citizens of New Smyrna Beach. So looking at these 7 different topics, my recommendation would be that you consider 7 different ordinances. That way you are not bound to, it's not a all or nothing type of proposition. The Charter Review Committee did recommend a special election. Sharon and I have been looking at commission dates to see, I would recommend we have a public workshop. It looks like the best date we can come up with is Monday, July 28th at 6:30 in the chambers. That's when I can get all of you here, and the facilitator is available. And if you guys ratify that date, then we can reach out to the chair of the Charter Review Committee as well to make sure that he has a part in the presentation. There was one matter that will come out of the charter, but it does not have to be done through this referendum process. That's related to annexation. So there's a alternative mode for annexation in the beginning. I believe it's Article 1 of our charter. The state preempted the field of annexations several years ago, so we can take that out by ordinance per state statute. We don't have to wait for a referendum to do that. So we will be proceeding forward with that, removing it, and I'm here for your feedback.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate the update. Any comments or questions from the commission? Okay, very good. Thank you for that.
Do you need an answer on the date now?
July 28th, is everyone agreeable at 6:30? Okay, we'll get the word out to the committee to make sure they know and make sure it gets publicly advertised so we have good citizen turnout.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's move on to public participation, our favorite part of the meeting. We get to listen to the public. If you have an issue that pertains to the city, matters of the city, please approach the podium. Offer your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to talk to us. This is a monologue, not a dialogue, so we won't be answering questions, but if feedback is necessary, the city clerk and city manager will take your information and we'll get back to you at the next meeting. And so at this time, you'll see the green light come on when you have 3 minutes to speak. The yellow light will come on with 1 minute to go, and then you should be done when the red light comes on. Good evening, Walter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Walter Bone, 607 Downing Street, NSB. Been living here about a year and a half. I'm a landscape architect, and I have a hobby of doing ink and watercolor sketches. And with my 2 grandsons, 6 and 2 years old, and my 3, 4 great nieces and nephews, I've been inspired, being a creative person, somewhat of a storyteller. My wife has another name for me for that, but my storytelling, I decided to, the grandsons and the great nieces and nephews, to attempt to write a children's book. And so this is based on Starla. She's a vibrant starfish who lives just off the shore here in New Smyrna Beach. And she accidentally gets washed up shore, and she ends up meeting friends, Carl the crab, Sammy the sand flea, and others, to help her find her way back to the ocean. So this is just a small gift. I was going to provide the copies to elementary schools and other children's organizations here, but I just wanted to give y'all just a freebie.
Yeah,
for y'all.
thank you so much, Walter. Appreciate you being here and appreciate your work. Good evening, Mr. Fluka. How are you, Joe?
My name is Joe Flutka. I live at 3382 Leonardo Lane in beautiful New Smyrna Beach. I'm here to thank our city engineer for the great job he did on a problem that we had in our community. And I wanted to make this council more aware of how great the city is because of employees like Kyle. Venetian Bay is the area that I live in, and we have a lot of apartments. And apartment dwellers tend to be younger, and younger people tend to drive more aggressively. I live at the corner of Leonardo and Leonabella, and as certainly Brian, you know, and most of the others may know as well, Leonabella is one of the more heavily trafficked road in the area. I noticed on several occasions some incidents that were happening that caused me a concern for the safety of the children that are at the bus stop on Lunabella and Leonardo. I met with Kyle several times, presented my problem, asked for suggestions. The professional that he is, he recommended the right thing, and everything seems to be working out. And that's great. But the other part is even more important. In every meeting that I was with him, I never felt rushed. I never felt that the problem was insignificant. As a matter of fact, Kyle made me feel that at that moment, this was the most important issue that he's working on. And this man has a schedule that none of us want. He's involved in everything. So I think that that's the secret sauce, or at least one of the secret sauces to this area, is people like Kyle. And I think that it's great that you guys are aware of it, but I wanted to make you more aware of it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate the feedback and the insight. Sir.
Good evening, everybody. I appreciate you giving me a couple minutes to speak. My name is Kim Hirschberger. I live at, well, almost live at 69 Cunningham, out in Inlet Shores. My house was destroyed, so I'm living with Mom now. So I'm old, unemployed, and living with my mother. But what I'm here for tonight is I represent my brother and my mother who's here, that we have an adjoining property that was part of some discussions, a couple of meetings previous to this one. And I think the train might have already left the station, but I think it's not at its destination yet as far as what it might do to impact our adjoining property at 654 Dora Street. The property in question is 666 Dora, and they're proposing a boat and RV storage. And we've only become aware of this recently, for whatever reasons. Part of it's our fault. But I'd like to be included in the end result on what the solution or ideas that I think the commission has come up with the applicant, rather than including the the properties around it. And I think our property will be negatively affected by what I've heard will be the outcome. And I'm really coming up to speed on it now, so I really don't know the real details. I started to look at the previous meetings today, and I haven't gotten through them all. But if there's an opportunity to meet with someone to say, like, well, maybe there's a better solution, maybe we can figure out something else. I don't know. I'm not familiar with this program or this process. So I'm looking for a meeting to see what can be done.
Thank you, sir. We'll follow up with you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Anyone else for public participation?
Hello, I am Jackson Manassi. I live at 1040 Clubhouse Boulevard. I've lived in Brooklyn, New York for a little while, but I've lived here for about 20 years. And I've written something because I don't know how you guys do it here. I was not politically involved. Good evening. I'm speaking today to raise concern about the city's decision to spend $22,000 again of taxpayer dollars to fund a police officer stationed at a private school, specifically Sacred Heart. I think we should be clear that public funds exist to serve the public, and if this money is going to a private school, then we have an issue as the school is not publicly accountable and does not serve every student and doesn't open its doors to the entirety of the community. If a private entity wants security, it should pay for it in its entirety, just like any other business, church, or clinic would. If the intent is safety, can we see the evidence of the specific officer has been doing, or has he stopped or deterred anything specifically, or any evidence that it does actually support like defending the school against any threat? A mobile patrol officer would be more cost effective and be better in general for the community, as it doesn't just protect the private entity. How many other private entities can come in and request $22,000 of the city's money? If this is something that the city is willing to do for one private institution, then where does the line get drawn? Are we opening the door for any private school or any private business or organization to publicly ask for funded perks? If there's no clear policy or criteria, then this isn't responsible budgeting and it's favoritism. I'm urging the council to review this funding decision and to publish any justification and commit to keeping the public dollars where they belong in public institutions and serving the entire public and not just private interests. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate your comments. Evening, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Cynthia Radigan, and I live in Terra Trail. I've been here many years, over 21 years, and I've come before this commission numerous times. Again, the issue is still the same. We are still dealing with an airport and flight training noise issue, a major issue, and a lot of pollution due to that. Ever since the last review of the noise study that was done recently, and there was somebody decided that there was less noise than there was with the previous noise study. All of the previously established noise abatement and voluntary restrictions had been completely abandoned, all of them. And we worked many years to get the noise abatement policies that we had in place. They've been completely abandoned. For instance, this morning, flight training started at 6:15 a.m. over my house. I've noticed for quite a while that every effort is made to avoid flying over inlet shores. And every runway pattern is turned and directed west, over to the west side, and each pattern crisscrosses over my home and around my local neighbors. Runway 25 for departure and runway 7 for arrivals is their primary and preferred runway, and it has just been reopened and has always been used as a common runway. And I have asked numerous times that we go back to the negotiation table to try to find some relief. Our neighborhood is greatly impacted. My health, my well-being, and those of my neighbors and my family are being gravely impacted, and we need some relief. I have a mom who has dementia. She has sundowners. I'm up half the night. I'm getting very, very little sleep, especially when these planes start at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. It's crazy. I am asking for a follow-up meeting to the public meeting that we had a while back addressing this issue. And in light, if that cannot be done anytime soon, because obviously it's been put off for over a year, that maybe we can put a task force together that might include myself and Commissioner McGurk, who's on the east side of the airport, someone from the airport manager's office, a member of the airport advisory board, and also maybe the EPIC flight abatement officer we could all work together. I have surveyed every single neighborhood around this airport. I know where the trouble spots are. I think I can speak for everyone who has had enough of this flight training noise and nuisance and the pollution that is impacting so many of us.
Thank you for your comments, Cynthia. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Veronica McCarthy. I'm at 833 Dougherty Street here in New Smyrna Beach. I am a retired naval aviation officer. I moved here in 2017, and about 3 years after I moved in, I had neighbors that came in that have been nothing but a nuisance. Police department is there constantly, I'd say 2-3 times a week. They've had a perpetual yard sale since January, and there's nothing but furniture and junk and piles of things in their front yard, and then they put tarps over it, and I've notified code enforcement many times already. They said their hands are tied because there's already been a lien put on the house. So once there's a lien put on, then I guess they go again and give them another citation, and then months later it goes to the magistrate, and then back to court, and another lien will be put on the house. So it's just an ongoing issue for not just me, but all of my neighbors. They also violate animal control. They have 2 dogs. They never leash them. They're not fenced in. They just open the door and let them out. I've called animal control many times, with the results of either nobody answers the phone, there's no one to get in touch with, I leave a message, they don't get back to me. It's just a real frustration for me and for my neighbors. So I'm not sure what can be done. The other situation that I have that bothers me is the legislation was changed a few years ago that you cannot remain anonymous reporting somebody under code enforcement, and I feel threatened to be leaving my name out there. I live alone. I don't want any repercussions from what I call unstable people. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
We'll be
you.
following up. Appreciate that.
Did you enjoy your vacation? Did you enjoy your vacation? Good. I'm Deborah Shaw. I live at 644 Door Street. Just a real short capture of the 666 that the gentleman was talking about. I was doing some studying and went through the pamphlets, and we come to a conclusion that you're going to let them keep the fence there. It's done. They're going to do some trees and whatever you say that after they're in business for 1 year, they're going to put some plants and things around. I look at the first permit that you authorized for them to have. It was supposed to be a metal, all aluminum fence. You go down there, you put a magnet on it, and it sticks to it. It is a copper. It's all a stainless steel with barbed wire on the top of it. So the measurement was supposed to be 69.5 inches. Height-wise, it's 96.5 inches because they raised it up off the ground and then left so much on the ground where you can crawl underneath it so they can have more height. So I don't know when you guys went out there and looked at it the very first time and they submitted this. Chad, the gentleman that put the fence up, is a welder. He's not a fence guy. So he just did that out of the kindness of their heart, put the fence up. I don't think he realized fence to fence. I had to have a vinyl fence put next to me because I didn't want a stockade fence next to me. My neighbor had 2 choices. Now we're back to 3 choices. We can have a chain link fence, a stockade fence, or a vinyl fence. Now you're saying that to save yourselves, you flipped it. If it becomes commercial, you can put chain link. If I'm residential and I lost my fence during Ian, I can't replace it back. That's what you put in your own writing here. But then you contradict yourself in the last meeting and said, no, let's change it now and make it so that if you're commercial, you can do whatever you want. But if you're residential and you've lived there 30 years, you cannot do what you want. You have to abide by chain link or vinyl fence or stockade. Who wants a stockade fence in their front yard? So when you really think about this, as you said, you let them put the fence there to stay, somebody really needs to go out there and look at the style fence you let them put there and the electric gates and stuff that were never even on the permit. They just did that out of their own, thinking you would never catch it. It's not even on your permit or your asking of it. I looked at it, the lady said, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. And I understand that she no longer works for you no more because she made the mistake. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Ms. Stasiak, good evening.
Good evening. Welcome back to everyone. Cindy Stasiak, 512 Yukon. I have a few short comments, and they really are all under the umbrella topic of planning and follow-through. So in the last meeting in May, y'all had a bit of conversation around the level of communication to residents, sort of giving them a heads up when something significant was going to go on, either on their street or affecting them directly. And so I have 2 questions for you. I'd respectfully ask, what communication was given to the residents that city action was going to occur on Sapphire and North Atlantic, and a little bit, I think, on Lakewood? Not sure I know the name of that street. Because I know quite a few folks in that area, and they almost seemed taken aback by what was going on. And the other is, this is the planning and follow-through part. Sapphire was paved on that apron and immediately torn up. And now they're working on it again. So that just seems like it should never happen. Kind of confused why it got paved, got ripped up, and now it's, last week when I walked there, it was sitting as dirt. So that's just a curiosity to me. The other thing about planning and follow-through is in item 21, I believe, of the manager's report, it said that we're done making the parking changes to 2nd Avenue. But the only thing that was corrected is putting parallel paved parking on 2nd Avenue and dealing with the, the visibility triangle on 2nd Avenue. However, there is just as egregious a situation on Cooper going to 3rd. And that visibility triangle has had no improvements done to it. I drove by again last night on my way from the grocery, and people are parking in that visibility triangle, plus they're parking head-in, which I didn't think was allowed on city streets. So I asked what's going on there. And the third is, I spoke to General Manager Chavez months ago, a very nice gentleman, and he said he would look into it, but I'm not sure I've seen anything happen with it. So if you want to consider, and please ask New Smyrna Beach Utilities to do an assessment of all the streetlights that are out. It's really not reasonable for a citizen to do that, but I'll give you an example. Getting on the South Causeway and then getting it to the turn on 3rd at Walgreens, there's a minimum of 15 lights that are out. Now, some of those are state, and some of them, I think, are ours, but I don't even know how to record that because I don't know if you need a poll number or something else. So it seems like something the utilities is better able to do than just regular people driving by. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate those comments. Anyone else for public participation?
Good evening. I'm Ron Stopa. I live on Sapphire Road, 217.
Ron, pull that microphone right up to your mouth. There you go. Perfect.
Good evening. I'm Ron Stopa. My family's lived on Sapphire Road for approximately 40 years. It's the mid-'80s. There's a park across the street from our house that for our purposes and our understanding over these 40 years that it was a green space, that it wasn't meant for parking. And supposedly it was deeded in when it was sold to the city from the owner that they wanted to preserve that. And the parking there, basically I would like to request no parking along Sapphire Road. There's more than hundreds of thousands of spots on the beach. No reason to have it along Sapphire Road and clog up the streets. Right now there are, let's see if I can stick to my notes here. Anyways, we were never even talked to about the parking in that park near Peninsula or the beach in the first place when they did that a couple of decades ago. And now the bathroom's there. It just attracts a lot of people. In fact, that area on Sapphire Road is on many public websites for free car camping, as it were. Car camping, RV camping. I've run people off. I've called the police department. They're not supposed to park there overnight, and they do. And we're on all the websites for free parking and camping where people post that they don't get harassed and they can stay overnight for free. The second reason I want to request no parking there is the quality of life is really diminished. I get woken up at least weekly by the sounds of loud stereo music from cars and bass music from parked cars. On Sapphire Road. Forget about taking a nap during the day with all the parking and stuff going on there. The turtles should be another concern of the cities, is that the gopher turtles are dying off pretty quickly over there. In the last 12 months, I've had at least 2 on my street that were deceased from being run over with all the traffic. And even I guess about a year ago, one of my neighbors, Suzanne, and I, we stood in the street on a weekend as a turtle was crossing the street so I wouldn't get ran over. And we almost got ran over as someone that was driving just thought we were the nuisance and zipped around us, not even slowing down. And obviously that's not worth dying over, but we were trying to say to the turtle, thought they would slow down because we were people, but obviously that doesn't have any impact on the people that park along Sapphire as well. So,
Thank you, Ron. We appreciate your comments. Your time has expired,
Okay.
but we'll be getting back to you. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Verano. I live on 209 Sapphire Road. I moved there in 1989. It's been my home. I would like for it to be my forever home. When I moved into Sapphire Road, the complete 1 acre block across the street from me was woods, natural vegetation. It remained that way for very many years. The land was owned by a family who left it in their will that this land should remain untouched and unbothered. They were very firm in that, and then in 1999, through efforts of Frank Marshall, the City Commission, a whole host of people, the city acquired that land, and that became what it was going to be, part undeveloped. In 2004, I believe the city received ECHO grants to create small parking areas at each end of the street. And then after that, they put up a sidewalk. After the sidewalk was built, people began just parking there. Okay, so you have a few cars coming in and out, no big deal. After a certain amount of time, it became overrun, particularly at COVID. There were cars parking from every state except Hawaii and Alaska. It is nonstop. It is every day. It is all hours of the night and day. It is very disruptive to our life. A home is where you live. It's your refuge. I've lived in this town for that many years. I have no refuge. I have no home. It's supposed to be a residential neighborhood. The city has allowed this to just develop. There was never a plan. The city has never established that as a parking area. They've just allowed people to infiltrate and park there. It's at an unbearable level. There is no peace at my house. It is, when you create, now you're proposing paid parking, you are commercializing a residential street. There has been no precedent for that. There has been no guidance on that. There's been no vetting on that. There has been no process to establish that as a parking area, and now you're going to codify it by creating a paid parking area, a commercialized paid parking area in a residential neighborhood. We get no relief from the loud noise and the music and all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments.
Good evening. My name is Diana Coughlin, and I live on a street called Sapphire Road. You might have heard of it. I really do stand here in disbelief that the city of New Smyrna Beach wants to make permanent the dangerous parking situation that exists across the street from my home. I surely believed in 3.5 years I've lived on this street that the city would sooner than later eliminate this horrendous parking situation, an outrageous safety hazard that has existed for far too long. But sadly, I was wrong. We were not even notified of this horrible decision. Each year, it has progressively gotten worse as far as too many folks are seeking to park in our neighborhood, especially on Sapphire. Beachgoers parking on Sapphire have been parking on such a narrow strip of easement, willy-nilly in every direction, overhanging the ADA sidewalk and jutting out into the narrowest of streets, 19 feet and a half, making the sidewalk impossible for anybody to pass, forcing beachgoers to stand in the road while they're unpacking their coolers and beach toys from the trunk. Cars back up or zoom around because they don't have the patience to wait. Many of the cars zoom into the easements in front of our homes because of the constant roadblock. The worst is the weekend or holiday when the tide is up. I'm shocked, quite frankly, that as of yet, thank God, no little child has been run over or while waiting for their parents to finish unloading the toys. Beach-going parking is entirely different from regular parking. People are going to the backs of their cars, they're opening their hatches, they're making sure where they know where their children are because there's so many cars zooming past them. They can't go to the sidewalk and walk because the cars are overhanging. They have to walk to the walkway on the road. And we observe this constantly from our front doors and windows. Again, there's no safe place for families to walk to the beach over. None of what I've mentioned so far even touches the obvious other burdens that we bear on Sapphire Road. Drunken fights breaking out, people loitering in their blacked out window cars, doing drugs and whatnot for hours. Kids hanging around their cars partying, loud boombox music shaking our home foundations, alarms going off. My husband literally had to protect a woman from her drunk boyfriend one day because we could hear her screaming in our homes. I will close with a question. Doesn't Sapphire already have enough parking with 2 large parking lots on the east and the west? I know there are safer, more acceptable options closer to the walkovers where the city could design newer, safer spaces that don't interfere with people's homes, our homes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments.
Good evening. My name is Jack Coughlin. I also live on Sapphire. You're going to hear myself repeating some things, as several of us out there as well. but you're going to hear the passion. And it's very sad that I'm here. I'm up here pleading and begging for you guys to save our street. Instead of trying to make it more beautiful. It's a disaster area right now. It should be your goal as well to make it more beautiful. New Smyrna Beach expects more. It also saddens me that we already have, as others discussed, parking at both ends of the street. And then I know there's planned parking on Sapphire, planned parking on Atlantic. But if you go to Atlantic right now, both sides have parking. Clean it up, do it right, that'll solve some issues. Go around the corner to Lakewood, clean it up. They're already parking on both sides. Let's do it right. I believe the people, the family, whoever donated it or sold it, I'm sure they're spinning in their grave right now. What happened, though, was trickery on your part. We came home, I think it was a Wednesday or a Tuesday, and there was a blinking light saying, paid parking coming. Nobody notified us. Nobody gave us the forum to talk about it, discuss it, talk about the problems that are going on there. They just said, what the heck? Let's just rip up a foot of grass and dirt. The next day, bring in gravel, toxic something, chunks of concrete like this to that. And I was told that this was going to be the final product. So by the city trying to save people from parking everywhere, they're going to charge $20, make $20 a car, where our values of our homes go way down. That's unacceptable. And again, I don't believe the people wanted that when they talked about donating it or selling it to the city. Diana just talked about the amount of trash, the urination. It's horrible that I have to sit there and watch for people throwing trash in there. People bring trash from their own homes to put it there. The drugs that are going on, I've seen people smoking dope right out in public like it's no big deal. We have kids. Next door to us is a foster home. 8 little kids usually are there. It's dangerous. They have to walk up the street because the cars are on the sidewalk, they're in the road, and like Diana said, we're blessed that nobody got hurt so far. I just want to end this parking and try to make it more beautiful. We just had the July 4th weekend. It was quiet. Why? 2 streets were closed down. Where did they go? If you go down by Walgreens, that parking space is there. It was pretty crowded that weekend for the first time. If you go by there, there's usually 10 cars there. Let's do the right thing, make this place beautiful, make Sapphire beautiful. New Smyrna Beach is a beautiful island community town. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your comments.
Good evening. My name's Kathy Feint. I live at 2742 Turnbull Estates Drive, New Smyrna Beach. I was a previous resident of Sapphire Road, 207, was there for 26 years. And hello to the commissioners and the mayor. I'm here because my husband and I were there during the time that the park was established and the parking lots were coming into play. We were very involved in that regarding safety with the exit and entrance into the front parking lot off Peninsula. And our concern was we were really concerned because it was a residential neighborhood, and here we are putting public parking. But the commissioners and the mayor at that time stated that it would not become a public growth of parking, that it would stay a neighborhood. And here we are so many years later, and from what I understand, you hired a consultant to find pockets of property that the city could utilize to have paid parking so that people could come to our town and use our beaches, which we are welcome to have. But at some point, when does it stop? When do you stop accommodating people just running amok in our residential neighborhoods so that they can go to the beach? You start putting paid parking on Sapphire, they're just going to go to Condic. They're going to go to Robinson. They're going to start parking all over the place. And then what are you going to do? Just allow that? I mean, at some point, our beach can only handle so much. So when it's full, go north. When it's full, go south. I don't understand why we are accommodating people coming into our city and destroying our neighborhoods. And it's our neighborhood. It's going to be Cooper next. It's going to be 10th Avenue. It's just going to keep going unless you know, parking lots, parking garages. There's areas that you could accommodate more public parking. Right there on 3rd Avenue, there's a piece of property that could be built for a garage. You just don't want stores underneath it. You just want parking. You know, just keep it simple. There's pockets, you know, there's the land just south of the parking lot on Sapphire, where there's a vacant lot because the house was torn down, and then you have the house just north of it. I mean, you could make parking there. But
Thank you,
leave
Kathy.
the neighborhoods
Kathy,
alone.
I'm afraid your time's expired.
Okay.
We get the point, and we appreciate it. We'll be following up for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Appreciate it. J-Dog, good evening.
How you doing, Fred?
Good, man.
So, yeah, I live on Sapphire, and I've lived on the north end of the beach my entire life, on Peninsula. And it's really, I just can't even believe what it's become. You know, and I mean, I understand things change, and I don't have a problem with people having fun, enjoying themselves, and coming here and all, but a little bit of respect and appreciation would be really nice. You know, I mean, just the basic things. A lot of people, you know, you say good morning or afternoon, they can't even exchange a pleasantry. You know, and it's like, and I don't know, it used to be nice, and I love my town. I mean, I just hate to see what's gone on and how it's been let to overrun and not really have a lot of appreciation for the residents, and just come and have a free-for-all, leave their trash, do a lot of rude stuff, needless to say. And I'm sure some people have already said those things. Because, yeah, they're standing over there peeing in the woods or putting in bottles, throwing their trash over there in that park that's supposed to be a really nice green spot or green area. I knew Gracie, and I knew her husband, Jack, that, you know, that's who he was named after, is Gracie. And she put it together, was instrumental in some of it. And then Andrea Lux, which was on the group that put it together too when all this came down. And it was to be a nice green space and be used for the North Beach community, for people to enjoy, you know, and I was always saying we ought to save that because it was the last patch of woods that was that, you know, in the area there before you get to Smyrna Dunes Park, which I was in on that too when Frank Marshall was trying to get that done. And it just, you know, that's what it was designated as, and not the parking on either end was fine. But to do what they're doing and parking like that, and just, it's amazing nobody's been killed. I mean, kids, people, whatever. And then Atlantic Avenue off of Sapphire heading north, you know, it's one lane. And it's pretty much one lane when the people are on Sapphire trying to, you know, they're getting out doing all their stuff. God bless the fire department. I don't know how they get through there sometimes. And the people don't care. They'll be honking, running their sirens, and they just, you know. And God bless Chief Kurt. He's freaking working hard at having our police force really try to, you know, and you can only do so much. You only have so many people for such a mass amount of people. So appreciate it. Hope we can get this settled and just have no parking over there and make it peaceful for us again. Like
Jay, thank you for your comments. Would you give us your name, Jay? How about your full name and address just for the record? Just your full name and address for the record.
Oh, full minute?
Just
Okay.
your
Well,
name
I
and-
saw the red light.
Just your name and address for the record.
Oh, Jay Drennan, 207 Sapphire Road.
Perfect. Thanks, J-Dog.
Local.
We know that. All right,
I was
man.
born in the Red Brick Hospital over there.
Thank you, J-Dog. Mr. Romero.
Mr. Mayor, please start the clock. Good evening. Welcome back from your vacation. Jess Romero, 708 South Cooper Street. Tonight you have on your agenda an ordinance to lower the speed limit on Saxon between 3rd and 7th, I believe, during the construction. I would like to see that speed limit maintained across the city streets on Beachside. If you go north of Flagler, it's 20 miles an hour. And if you go south of Flagler, it's 35 miles an hour. Why the difference? And we have same kind of streets here. Tonight, I don't envy you guys because you sit here and I watch these people from Sapphire speak about the parking issue. And then I recall being here almost a year ago when this room was packed with red shirts. They didn't want a parking garage over on 3rd Avenue. But you're being asked to find parking where there is no parking. You have a parking issue. So either we open up the streets to parking like on Cooper, which is, I didn't have a choice. It's already there. I have a stop in front of my house, people park in front of my house. I can't stop that. But if you go north of Ocean, it narrows to one lane basically. And you have all these blocks, cinder blocks, sprinkler systems, all in there on the street. So if we reclaim, which we don't want to do, I understand that, reclaim the property that is a city in the easements there and expand the parking, we'll gain more parking, because if we don't, the solution is going to be a parking garage that we don't want. Nobody wants a parking garage. We have to give sometimes and say, okay, we understand why you're doing it. All right, so we got to find a balance, because the outcome is going to be they hired a parking consultant, and the outcome is going to be there's going to be massive parking garages on each side, which nobody wants. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else for public participation?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioner, city staff. My name is Gene Barano. I live at 209 Sapphire Road. It's the only address I have a recollection of ever living at. My neighbors have done a really good job of making you aware of parking, and all the associated activities that come with it are impacting our lives, our property values, our environment. I had prepared 3 minutes, and I'm not going to go into that detail. The history was covered, that there was never an intention for this to be a parking lot. It was bought to be preserved as a green space. It's the only green space of that size north of Flagler Avenue. It is a habitat. And in my business, what I do for a living, working for the Department of Transportation, I'm a project manager. And there's something called creep. It's budget creep, it's scope creep, it's schedule creep. So we're going to apply that term creep to this. The city is forcing parking creep onto this parcel that has this property, and it's a number of parcels. You have obligations to that purchase not to have parking creep and turn it into a parking lot. It was bought to be preserved as recreational space. It was bought to be preserved for the North Beach community. It was not purchased and given to the city to become a parking lot for the beach. You do not have a beach parking issue. Volusia County has a beach operation and management issue. And your attempt to mediate that or remediate that is impacting us. This is our home, this is where we live, and unfortunately, it's day in, day out, and it's night after night. We appreciate your time. We look forward to hearing from you, because we haven't heard from you to this point. The task force didn't contact us. The consultant study didn't contact us. We had to come to you when the grassy easement was tore up at the beginning of June. And this is the first opportunity we've had to address you. So we are respectfully requesting no parking on Sapphire Road. We have reached our limit. We cannot take any more. We'd appreciate it if you'd contact us and communicate with us. Some consideration should be given, and it has not been given up to this point. You have to be aware of that. You have to know that. The public needs to know that this wasn't vetted. This parking plan wasn't vetted. We didn't get a look at a printed plan until July 1st of this year. So again, take that into consideration, please, and contact us. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Appreciate your comments. Order. Anybody else for public participation?
Yes, one more. I'm sorry.
So my name is Laura Drennan. I live at 207 Sapphire Road. I've lived in New Smyrna Beach since I was 13 years old. I've lived on the north end of the beach since 1979. I've only lived in 3 homes since 1979 on the north end of the beach. So I'm well aware of what has been going on in our residential neighborhood. I walk a dog. I've had a dog my whole life, so I'm very familiar with what goes on in the neighborhood. I prepared a list of things that go on in our neighborhood, but seems like a lot of it's been covered in what I wrote. Technically, I feel sickened to have to stand up here and tell you what is happening in that park. I want the police to know that they do the best that they can, but there is drug dealing, there is all kinds of prohibitive activities happening in this park that make me feel unsafe in a home that I own and live in and have basically my whole life. I'm a business owner in this town and have been my whole adult life, and I don't feel that as a tax-paying citizen, a business owner, a resident owner, that I should be subjected to what is happening at that park on a daily basis. The parking lots are there, that's the parking. Heaven forbid an emergency vehicle needs to get to Sapphire Road. There have been 2 fires. The fire department could not come. My husband and I put one fire out. I don't know who put the other fire out. They block the fire hydrants continuously. Once it is after 5 o'clock, this is when a lot of activity happens in this park because it's not being patrolled by parking police or the police force or the towing or whoever is supposed to be enforcing it. There are posted rules, and none of those are even being enforced or followed. Now, please, for my own safety, do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate your comments. Anybody else for public participation? We'll wait for you, Mr. Blueback.
Good evening and a long evening. I want to offer a comment about an item on the consent agenda. I believe it's 7G, the update of the comprehensive plan. I hope that, in fact, it is a complete update of the plan and not microscopic like we've done in the past. It's long overdue. I'd also like to offer a comment that we do the same thing to the land development regulations. We're coming out with a new charter. It may have some influence on those 2 documents, and I'd like to see all of those integrated together. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Anyone else for public participation?
Good evening. I'm Jane Routh, 1803 Beacon Street. I am with Sacred Heart School, and I am up here tonight I came first to thank you all for entering into the partnership with our school in 2004-2005 fiscal year to split the cost, not 45 us, 55 us, 45 you all, to partner to keep our children safe. And at that time, that was and would have been the single largest budget item for our school, and it came at a huge opportunity cost of our school to pay out of pocket for a police officer before we were able to enter into this partnership with the city. So thank you for taking that off our hands and freeing us up to provide education for our community. And I also wanted to thank you because part of the contract states that the benefits of working together and having a police officer in our school is not only protection, but to build community relationships with our police officers. And I wanted to give you testimony that dropping the kids off at school. It's the kindergartners, it's the high school, not the high schoolers, we're through middle school, so it's even our awkward 13-year-olds are high-fiving and still hugging this police officer. They have a wonderful community. She's built a wonderful community to always be make a police officer a positive role model to our students. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about our community. So Sacred Heart School is now 98% funded by scholarship. So to address the young man's concerns tonight, who spoke earlier, since the school choice scholarship became available, our classrooms are now at max. We have waitlisting for all of our classes because there's a need and a demand, or not a need, there's obviously a demand in our community for an alternative education besides the public school. And I'm so grateful that we can open that up. The scholarships were open that up to the children of our community, and the children of our community attend our school. And so, as you all have agreed in the past that all the children in our community deserve protection, I ask you again to approve protecting all the children in our community. And as a reminder, the public schools all have a guardian and our school resource officer. We are the largest middle school besides the public middle school in New Smyrna Beach. And we are able to give that opportunity for if anyone wants school choice, go to a different school. And I also wanted to address that other schools in the area, Father Lopez has entered in 2023, entered into an agreement to split the cost as well. And I wanted to address the young man's concerns about his comments about a slippery slope.
Jane, I'm sorry, your
Sorry.
time's expired,
So a
and I
slippery
appreciate
slope
your
of what
comments.
What if public funding goes to
Thank you,
a
Jane. I
school?
appreciate
Or
your
what
comments.
if something
Jane,
happens to a school in your community?
Jane, your time
Thank
is
you.
up. Thank you. Anyone else for public participation?
My name is Kristen Wiles, 3336 Shamrock Drive, and I am a parent at Sacred Heart. I'm also the PTO member there, and I just wanted to make a couple more points that Jane did regarding everything. With the world nowadays, our school is very vulnerable due to its religious nature. We have a church on our property that our children are in daily. We also hold weekly masses, which makes everything very vulnerable to them and the need for an officer to protect our community's children. I also wanted to say, she talked about Father Lopez. Lourdes Academy also has an officer as well that I'm aware of. And then we are also a parochial school, and that means that we serve our community. So Sacred Heart serves the community. We participate in a yearly beach cleanup for New Smyrna Beach. We do a brown paper bag project every single month where the kids come in, they put food and non-perishable items in bags, and we deliver them to the different homeless shelters around here as well. We also do canned food drives for them. We go to the nursing home, especially during the holidays, and bring the people gifts, and they sing carols to them and decorate their doors. We also collect clothes, donations for the homeless, and then we also send a lot of our stuff to the Dominican Republic for the different schools over there as well. So we serve our community. We are just trying to build a bigger, better, more community-like feel in this small little, town, which is not bigger, but but anyways, I just wanted to say thank you, and hopefully that we can continue on with the safety of our babies.
Thank you, Christian. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else for public participation? Seeing none, public participation is now closed. Thank you for your comments. So we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Does any of my colleagues, any commissioner wish to comment on any of them? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to clarify for the record on item 7C, resolution number 1625.
7.
It's the resolution regarding the granting authority to city
Got it.
manager.
7C, yeah.
So that
7C.
resolution was revised to add in a sentence that would require if that authority is used, the commission must be informed about it in each instance.
I think I remember seeing that in your notes today, and also that it is not delegatable, right? There's nothing in there about that. Okay, very good. Any comments from anyone? I've got a question on 7G, 7 Gulf, Carrie, as it relates. Would you opine about this? Is about the comprehensive plan, and are we in order to do this separately when we have a charter change pending, or are they not related documents? Are we safe to continue?
Yeah. These are independent documents. So your charter is your bones of the government. Your comprehensive plan is your vision for development of the city. So completely independent.
Very good. Thank you so much. Anyone wish to pull any items? Anybody want to pull any of the items?
I would like to say, I do
Ma'am.
have concerns about putting out public money for one private organization.
You want to pull it and talk about it?
Well, I think it's worth discussing because
Pull it.
it could impact a greater city issue. And so, yeah, let's talk about it.
Which number is it?
That one is,
7K.
Kilo. All right, we'll pull item Kilo. Any others? Okay, then I would entertain a motion, please, to adopt item Alpha Bravo Charlie, Delta Echo Foxtrot, Golf Hotel, India, Juliet, Lima Mike, November, Oscar Papa, and Quebec.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Martin,
yes.
Commissioner Perrine,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley,
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes, okay, so we've got the consent figured out. I'll read K for the benefit of all of us. Consider approval renewal of a contract with Sacred Heart Catholic Church, Catholic School for a full-time police officer for fiscal year 25-26. I'll let Commissioner Martin open the discussion.
Well, my concern is only, first of all, because it is a private school, presumably getting charter money, I would assume, but and they do great things. It's a great school, they do great things, but it's not the only private school in the city of New Smyrna Beach, and I get concerned about setting a precedent that could affect us going forward. That's it.
Any other comments or opinions, Commissioner
So we had
McGurk?
that was discussed briefly when we first did it, and so far we've had none. I mean, technically you could be right. There could be other schools that come forward, and I think at the time we determined that the best call was to go ahead and have a 50-50 partnership. The other schools, if creating any kind of precedent, would also have to come up with a 50-50 partnership. And the bottom line is it is a large school, and it would be, has the high profile that a number of other very small little private schools around town don't necessarily have that exposure. So I think the partnership has worked great. There's been no problem so far, and it hasn't set in motion a tidal wave of additional requests. So, and I'm not so sure we don't have some sort of obligation, moral obligation to deal with those when those come in at a 50% capacity either. A school is a school, and in the end, we need to make sure that the schools, because they seem to be a magnet for crazy people coming in and wanting to shoot them up, quite frankly, we need to do what we can to protect them, and I think that so far everything has worked out very well.
Well, this
Thank you,
one
sir.
has-
Appreciate your comment. Commissioner Perrine.
A lot of people don't know that we do have school choice, and I think with that follows a responsibility. He mentioned that would open us up to any business. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as a school, and we're here to help protect our children if we can. I wouldn't be the commissioner. I wouldn't want to be a commissioner sitting up here if a shooting did happen at that school or that church that voted no.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. So, graduated from high school 50 years ago, and we didn't have any police enforcement on schools. It wasn't what was done at the time wasn't necessary. We don't have to look back in our history books too terribly far from 2025 to find terrible things that happen in a variety of places that would unconscionable across our country. For whatever reason, we can't seem to nationally get that under control, so we have taken to do that on a local level. Surely part of our responsibility is public safety. Majority of that city responsibility falls under the public safety umbrella. Should another school pop up along the way and become as popular, maybe the next one is Upward Trend Academy. It's a young and budding school. Maybe that's the right next place, but I do view that as an obligation, both morally, as Commissioner McGurk points out, and pragmatically and programmatically as a city service. And so I speak in favor of that. Anybody else? Any reattacks? Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion, second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perrine,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Having concerns about using public money for private.
Ma'am, just
No.
the vote. No, got a no.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, consent being done, we're going to move on to administrative and new business. And we have item 8A remaining. The manager has removed 8B and C. And this is about, as an important step. 8B and C will be taken up another time when it's ready. But let's hear from our Assistant City Manager, Mr. Nybert, about the Turnbull Creek Preservation property.
Before you have a proposed contract proffered by Mr. and Mrs. Johnson for the acquisition of 2.75 acres within the Turnbull study area and identified property within the Turnbull plan for acquisition. Previously, the Commission reviewed this request at a $170,000 purchase price and chose not to move forward with that request. At this time, the Johnsons are requesting a contract price of $150,000. Appraisals were done by two local appraisers of $149,000 and $120,000 with an average of $134,500. While the average of the appraisals is slightly below the asking price, we did previously purchase the Platinum property under similar circumstances where the average appraisal was lower than the contract purchase price, and the Commission did proceed with this. I'll answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Nybert from my colleagues?
No.
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
So on the one appraisal, it's noted, and I sent you a screenshot of it, that 90% of these, would you say it was 2.5 acres?
I'm sorry?
Did you say it was 2.5 acres?
2.75.
2.75. 90% of that 2.75 acres are wetlands. So that only leaves 10% that would even be buildable on that.
One of the appraisals indicated that the acreage that was in the wetlands was 1.5, leaving, or excuse me, that was not in the wetlands was 1.5. That was on the Kraus appraisal. So that there's differences in the estimation of how much is in the wetlands. So maps I looked at showed about 55 to 60% in the wetlands. So the 1.5 to 1/4 acreage not in the wetlands is probably an accurate figure based on maps that we looked at today.
So where I'm looking at is on the page where it says description of the site, and it,
Is that on the Heffington appraisal or the Kraus appraisal?
hang on, I'll read it to you. This is the drainage. This site is generally level and is heavily wooded. The National Wetlands Inventory map indicates that almost the entire site, 90%, is classified as wetlands, and it has an addenda. So my only concern is if it's already wetlands, then I don't know that we should even pay $150,000 for something that's already wetlands. And I think that money could go for better use for other properties that we have out there. I don't think it's a high priority with the Turnbull Creek board. I think they
did.
voted on it, but I was told by one of the head person that it is not a high priority because it's not very buildable. And I've heard from some of the neighbors that that lot floods. So I just have concern with the price. I don't know that that would be built. What I would like to see if we put land in conservation is we're protecting it from developers from building, not from a homeowner that has contacted us to not build on one lot that could be only a quarter of an acre. When you do the 90% and 10% is possibly buildable, that's not even a quarter of an acre we're saving for $150,000. Seems like a lot to me.
Thank you, man. Any other comments, my colleagues? You got one? Go ahead.
Yeah.
I have a question after you're done.
Clarify who's determining that it's not buildable? Because just because it's a wetland doesn't mean it's technically not buildable.
It's not buildable unless you do remediation. The property, any wetlands property can be remediated for development, either through providing additional properties for wetlands or paying into the National Wetlands Fund.
So it is developable, and the only thing that's difficult to develop is a property in the floodplain that doesn't have property within that property above the floodplain where you're going to put retention. So, I understand what you're saying, but I think that the idea that it's not buildable is inaccurate, and packaged together with bigger parcels, the whole area could be easily developed. So I think I'm going to support it simply because it can be developed. Wetlands are easy to mitigate with those who know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know if the rest of us know how to do it. It'd be very complicated for us, but it's easy to do with those who that's their business. So I'd be concerned that not buying it with the idea that it's not developable. It may not be easily developable, but it's developable. Thank you.
Any other reproaches? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Well, just again, with fill and build, we see a lot of building on wetlands. We've got ones along South Peninsula that are building with water that is as high as the road, and they're doing fill and build right there through the mangroves. So I can't use that as a criteria.
And I appreciate that.
Give me just a second. Commissioner Ashley.
Yeah, I just have a question. Is this one of many properties that is involved in the acquisition of conservation areas for the referendum?
Yes, sir.
So it's one of many?
It's one of many within the target area. Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I need to know.
Commissioner Perrine.
I just had a couple more questions because I agree with everything you guys have said. I don't want that developed either. But if it costs a developer so much money to haul in dirt just to develop that because it's wetlands, they don't have to be allowed to mitigate. If it's wetlands, they don't have to approve that. That's not up to us. But my other question is, this owner had this property on the market at all? And if so, for how long?
That I don't know how long it's been on the market.
And I don't have a problem with buying it, but this is over what I think, and I just think the value is too high for 90% of it being wetlands.
Yeah. To reference, the appraisal numbers provided by the appraisers did take the wetlands into account, so the value reflects their opinion of how much wetlands was covered, and their value reflects that. So the wetlands were considered as part of their valuation.
Can you remind me that number is one for 149 and one for 134?
149 for the highest appraisal, 120 for the lowest appraisal, an average of 134.5.
Got it. And so this is at 150. Got it. Any further questions or discussion? Yes,
One
ma'am.
other question. It had something to do with the access of the Turnbull Creek there. I looked at picture map on it, looks like it goes up to the Turnbull Creek. But I was confused with what I was told, that we don't have access to it from that property, but can we access to that property? Because I thought that might bring a little more value to it if we could actually use that site to access the creek there to do cleanup, or?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Because to me, that makes a huge difference.
Yes.
Ron, was the intent with the endorsement of the Turnbull Creek Preservation Group, and is the intent to hold it so that it doesn't get developed and it stays natural? What's the intent?
The deed restrictions that are placed on the property is to maintain it in its current condition in perpetuity, notwithstanding proper management of it to eliminate invasive species. But the intent and the deed restrictions requires that that property be maintained in its current condition, a natural state in perpetuity. We cannot even use it for stormwater retention. It has to be maintained natural.
I believe you spoke out publicly. I saw something in the News Journal. Would you recount what it was that you were talking about the balance of what the city tries to do in terms of purchasing property? Would you mind, for the record, just saying that out loud?
Yeah, the city has undertaken two avenues to ensure conservation properties in the city. One is this very progressive project in terms of acquiring property specifically for conservation that was supported by 75% of the voting residents of this community in a referendum in 2018. Additionally, this commission does a great job in ensuring that conservation properties, particularly recently in the Deering Park case, that conservation properties are earmarked for preservation as part of meeting its obligations in reviewing development projects and ensuring conservation properties in the course of those projects and in this progressive program that we're doing with the Turnbull Creek monies.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Nybert? Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is there a motion on this particular topic to approve the purchase?
So moved.
Is that a motion?
I'll second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes,
Thank you.
the motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll look forward to what 8B and C hold as you get it prepared. We're going to move on to Section 9, which is quasi-judicial hearing. Quasi-judicial hearing will be conducted to approve HTR 2-25, historic tree removal of 4 historic trees on a commercial property for Volusia Mosquito Control at 801 South Street. Quasi-judicial hearing is now open, and I see Channing is at the mic, so we're ready for your report, Mr. Malala.
Good evening. This is a public hearing to consider the application number HTR 225, historic tree removal of 4 historic trees on the commercial property for Volusia Mosquito Control at 801 South Street. As you can see, here is a location map and aerial map of the subject property, which includes 2 existing commercial parcels and portions of one commercial parcel existing where the mosquito control facility is currently. And as you can see on the location map, it's flagged as the entire airport property, but that's because it has not been subdivided yet to include the additional portion of that property, which is just to the west of the current facility. It's roughly 9 acres in total. Like I said, where the current Volusia Mosquito Control property operations function, located on the south side of South Street, west of US 1, and it is zoned I-3 Industrial Park. So as you can see from the proposal above, there are a few trees that I'll get into that were flagged on the surveyor's report that were not actually historic status, and that came from the arborist report, who field verified those trees. We're seeing quite often that there are some discrepancies in those. But the trees highlighted in green are those that are proposed for removal under this HTR application. The trees in yellow are proposed for preservation, and those two trees just adjacent to the building in the center of the property highlighted in red, they were previously flagged as historic trees, but they are just specimen trees, so they won't be considered for this within this application. So the observation from Ray Jarrett, the arborist that conducted the report, was conducted March 24th, and the trees that were reviewed were concentrated around the existing facility. He said all trees are larger established trees with diameters greater than 30 inches as recorded by survey. The trees located on the western side of the property, which will be in a part of their lot combination, have a site or have diameters ranging from 9 inches to 24 inches diameter breast height. Western side was reviewed, and there are no historic trees in that area. So the criteria for the removal of historic trees per our land development regulations are as follows. Historic trees in all zoning districts shall be removed only upon a tree removal permit granted by the city commission at a quasi-judicial public hearing after finding that the evidence presented is more compelling for removal of the historic tree than for it to remain. And so the petitioners wishing to obtain a permit must show the following. The tree is currently damaging or is posing an imminent danger to an existing structure, or the tree is damaging and or interfering with the installation, operation, and or maintenance of existing or proposed public infrastructure, or the tree is dead, diseased, structurally unsound, or severely injured such that the tree is likely to die within 2 years, or other extraordinary circumstance or hardship where the applicant has demonstrated that no other feasible option exists to preserve the tree. So here's a breakdown of the report that we received on these trees from Ray Jarrett. So like I said, there are 4 trees that were considered to be historic in this application. Those are highlighted on the image on your screen in yellow on the table. Before I go into the major findings, you'll see that some of those are highlighted in red, and they're highlighted in red because of their likelihood of failure. So the matrix kind of breaks down their probability of failure, their impact of failure, and the consequences of failure. 3 of the 4 trees were highlighted as possible failures. Only 2 of those trees that were possible failure were of the historic status. One is a specimen tree. So tree 256 is a laurel oak. It has epicormic sprouts and included bark with a possible likelihood of failure. Mitigation is calculated as 1/10 cross-sectional replacement, and that will be conducted during the site plan, but this is just for future reference for what would have to be replaced if removed. That would be 21 2.5-inch caliper trees. So staff has determined that this tree meets 2 of the necessary criteria for removal. 2 of those being that the tree is structurally unsound, that is 1, and the tree is interfering with the installation, operation, or maintenance of an existing or proposed public infrastructure. We have deemed that Fallujah Mosquito Control is a public facility, and the public infrastructure that accommodates that. Tree 261 is a live oak. It's 58 inches diameter breast height. That was considered healthy and vigorous, growing in an elevated landscape bed surrounded by fencing. The arborist deemed that it had an improbable likelihood of failure. Staff determined that this tree meets one of the criteria for removal, being that it is in interference of public infrastructure. Tree 262 is a live oak, 49 inches diameter at breast height. Is considered healthy and vigorous, growing in an elevated landscape bed surrounded by fencing. The tree at the time had a great horned owl nest in the canopy with 2 chicks observed, and it was assigned an improbable likelihood of failure. Staff determined that this tree met one of the criteria for removal. Tree 263 is a live oak, 45 inches diameter breast height. Arborist noted that tree has some decay, a vertical torsion crap, and bark is slowing off the main stem. He assigned a possible likelihood of failure. Staff determined that that tree met 2 of the criteria removal. So I wanted to dive into the quick overview of tree 262, where the arborist did note that there was a great horned owl nest with 2 chicks in there. As of June 30th, I did a site visit, and there was no owl nesting in that tree. I do have some information on great horned owls nesting probability and what they usually do in their life cycle pattern if you are interested. Here is a proposed topo map of the site with the new proposed infrastructure and buildings. This is for reference to the elevated landscape beds and potential impact of any kind of fill activity with the proposed development. So staff recommends approval for the removal of the 4 historic trees proposed based on the criteria having been met. This approval should be applied with the condition that the final site plan for the Volusia County Mosquito Control Complex must still gain approval prior to removal of the trees. If the commission chooses to approve removal of the historic trees, staff suggests that the mitigation of each tree be met as calculated in this report. And that is the end of my report. If there are any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Mallow? Vice Mayor.
Hi, could you explain what happens in tree mitigation?
So during the site plan process, it is required that we have a tree survey. West of the river, anything over 6 inches will be flagged as trees of concern, essentially. Those will show up on their survey. There is a 15% tree preservation requirement for the entire site, and then it's also broken down into specimen tree protection. So once the 1 tree per 2,500 square feet is met minimum, there is a choice to preserve more, obviously, but there is also the choice to plant or mitigate per cross-section or per 2.5-inch tree based on cross-section and pay into the tree mitigation fund. So those are the options available.
So you can, in fact, take down a historic tree and pay money into the tree mitigation fund as somehow substituting for that historic tree?
Essentially, yes, they still have the requirement to meet their minimum standards of 1 tree per 2,500 square feet, but also their specimen tree protection. So this is just for the historic trees in this portion. When we get into the site plan review process, we'll review specimen tree coverage, canopy coverage, and overall tree protection as proposed.
Understood, but just to clarify for the public, it is possible to cut down a historic tree by paying money into a tree fund that would be used at some point by the city.
Yeah, yes, that
but
is
has
correct.
nothing to do necessarily with the property under discussion.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner McGurk.
Thank you. Hey, Channing, thanks for the report. 261 and 262 seem to be the 2 large, healthy live oaks. And I see on the site plan that it does, why do those have to go, I guess what I'm saying. I look on the site plan, it looks like there's not a building there. What's happening there?
That is based on the criteria in the land development regulations. So how it's currently written, they really only have to meet one of the 4, being that there are ors called out in each one of those sentences. So they did meet at least
We'll
one
get you a
of
chance,
those.
Ben. You get a full run.
Okay, so they're just meeting they're simply they met a criteria to have it removed.
Essentially, yes.
Okay. So I have some experience with this because I built an entire parking lot around a whole bunch of trees. You know, some lived, some didn't. I have a piece of property where there's asphalt built all the way up to the stock of trunk, and the tree is thriving and has been for decades. It's bizarre. But so I was just wondering why those 2 trees felt that they needed to go. Maybe Ben can answer that.
Those again, that's based on
Sure.
the criteria.
They met the
alone.
criteria.
Subjectively, yes, that's the criteria.
Oh yeah, for sure. We'll get to. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you, Channing.
Yeah, of course.
You've answered my question. Thank you.
Channing, thanks for the report. I appreciate it. is the work that did you do any work with the county, who is the applicant, to move the buildings around or move the parking lot around? What, to make it work out so you didn't have to do any of the tree removal?
Not to this point. Their main concern was actually shown during the pre-application meetings about some of their flight paths and the concern over the trees. And at that point, they were interested in moving forward with the removal of them.
Yeah, so you didn't try to mitigate it by moving the buildings around or anything like that?
Correct. Right now, they're in the middle, essentially, of drive aisles, so they do meander around those trees a little bit, but the facility is expanding quite significantly.
We've done that before with other projects. Why didn't you try to save the trees by moving the buildings or moving the parking?
That's a question I can't answer right now.
Okay.
We can address
Very
that.
good. And I spoke with Mr. Jared about the 4 trees, and two of the 4, 2 of the live oaks are very healthy and will live a good long life. The other 2 just are the next category up with is possible threat. Nothing even close to they're going to die anytime soon. Okay. Thank you for the report. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now the commission will hear from the applicant. The County Public Works Director, Mr. Ben Bartlett's here to present to us.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. It's always a pleasure to be here in New
Thanks for
Smyrna
coming,
Beach,
Ben.
speaking to you.
You know,
Ben Bartlett, Volusia County Public Works Director. As he said earlier, you know, we've been a partner with the New Smyrna Beach Airport since the 70s, almost 50 years. Many of the buildings out there are original metal buildings. We even had to bring in some modular buildings for workspaces, as well as our mosquito control lab. And frankly, just these buildings, including our aviation hangar, have reached the end of their useful life, which is why we're here talking about a new facility. You've seen the plan for the future facility. We're not adding any additional functions out here. We are bringing the chemical storage facility building that's off-site, on-site, into a more secure area. But essentially, it's going to be our workspaces, our lab, our aviation hangar, and the chemical storage facility and storage for our equipment. Some renderings showing the facility from the road. And, you know, obviously, you know, mosquito control is an important function of the government. You know, 2 things make Florida habitable, they say: air conditioning and mosquito control. And, you know, we have to upgrade this facility to continue to meet our mission and our public health mission associated with what they do out there. This is just a slide that talks about the public infrastructure requirement associated with it. It was gone over pretty well in the previous slide to meet that requirement. And just to talk a little bit about, I heard some of the questions come up. There are 8 historic trees we're proposing to preserve. Half of them, 2 of them are, as noted by the arborists, are not expected to survive, and 2 are healthy. What I will say, as far as the 2 healthy ones, so one thing we're looking at doing on the stormwater system is dry retention, which is the most ideal system when we have aviation associated with it, is because you don't want to attract birds and things like that. So we're proposing to go with a dry retention system that doesn't attract wildlife. The 2 trees, although noted as healthy, I would note they are on the existing site next to existing buildings that will be demolished, and very close to current buildings that will be built. Ideally, you know, I have some experience with this, obviously, at the county level. I sit on the DRC when folks come in for a very similar type waiver for historic trees, and you ideally want to preserve the tree and you want to preserve the drip line. These trees are impacted, their root systems are impacted. Currently, I know the arborist said that they can live, but those, by the nature of the operations going on out there, they're already impacted in a way that you wouldn't be allowed to impact trees if you were preserving them. And then obviously with the dry retention system, there's going to be some fill coming into the site to bring this site up a little higher, and that will impact those root systems as well. It was mentioned as far as moving the buildings around, so if you've ever been involved in site work and things like that, drive aisles, fire department access, turn radiuses, all those things are important. We're trying to fit these buildings onto a site that will have to continue to function while construction's going on, which is why we're expanding into the parcel next door. But there's still those requirements associated with new utilities coming in, as well as fire department access that will impact these trees that frankly is unavoidable. We spent quite a bit of time massaging the site, working these buildings to try to maximize the amount of trees we can preserve. And then finally, the flight path of the helicopter itself. Ideally, this is an airport property. Both of these parcels are part of the airport. There is aviation operations that are occurring out here. We fly 2 helicopters regularly out of this site. They don't always fly straight out over the runway and out. They fly in different directions depending on what their mission is. They fly at night, they fly at dusk. So ideally, from a standpoint of that, we would like to have as many obstacles that could be removed from their flight path. Just a slide that kind of covers what I talked about as far as how we preserved some of the trees and why we're proposing to remove the 4. And then happy to answer any questions you might have regarding our facility or the request to remove these 4 trees.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Any questions for Mr. Bartlett? Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick one.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. We talk about possible failure or unhealthy, and I can remember one arborist a few years ago said, yeah, it's a sick tree. I don't think it's going to last longer than 60 years. So when I now hear, thanks to that comment, when I now hear possible or probable, I want to know, do we expect it tomorrow or do we expect it in the next century?
Well, Commissioner Martin, I am not an arborist, so I couldn't tell you the answer to that question. I can tell you my experience with trees and whether they last has been solely related to hurricanes, and I've seen a lot of very healthy trees knocked down in the last few years from hurricanes. What I can tell you is, those 2 trees were noted by the arborist. I would defer to his opinion, but they are located in an area that would impact the facility, the construction of the facility, and the construction activities alone in those areas would impact the tree roots and the drip line, which I think would lead to failure regardless.
Other question is I thought I understood you to refer to the activities at the mosquito control, possibly from the chemicals, already impacting trees. Did I misunderstand?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Not that they're impacting trees. No, we have a very strict containment system that prevents anything, and our larvicide system is an organic material. No, currently our chemical storage is off-site, and so we're looking to bring that on-site within the fenced-in, secure area, and it will allow us to be a more efficient operation because we'll be able to load our vehicles in a contained environment. In fact, the building itself is going to have a whole containment system that we have to meet requirements for. The trucks will be able to pull in and load in there, so it'll all be self-contained in there.
Thank you. I must have misunderstood.
Yes, ma'am. No, we do not have any impacts from the chemicals. Correct.
Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner McGurk.
Ben, thanks for coming out and talking to us about this. I know ideally the drip line. Most projects in the city that we deal with, if you had to stay within a drip line, 3/4 of all the projects would never get developed. I've experienced that in a number of my projects and properties that I own. So the drip line would be great. I've seen trees that have all the space in the world, perfectly healthy, lose huge limbs, no rot, perfectly healthy, no explanation. And I acquired a property that has a live oak in 2007 that had asphalt all the way up surrounding the trunk. And since I've owned this property, this tree, which is surrounded by asphalt, has thrived. The old Stavros, which is now Osaka, in the middle of their property has one of these kinds of very large live oaks. It's been there since I was a kid. It's wrapped in asphalt, and it's done nothing but looked very good and thrived. I had no idea why conventional wisdom would say that tree never had a chance, would have died many years ago. Looking at 261 and 262, it looks like it's in between buildings. Right, that on the two green trees that say on either side that say remove, number 261. So those, and my question is, what am I looking at? What is, and is the reason, is the reason those trees are going to be removed because, I mean, it doesn't appear that there's a building on it. I don't know if that's a driveway.
Yes, sir, it is. It's a driveway.
Oh, it's a driveway.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was hoping you were going to tell me that was green space.
No, sir.
And I was going to try to get you to
No,
say
and
that.
if we could, I'm telling you, I mean, I have sat in your position as part of the Development Review Committee with the county in these exact same things.
Right.
I can tell you, we tried really hard to preserve it, as many of the trees as we could. And if you consider 2 of them are diseased and dying, that leaves 6, and we're saving 4 of the 6. And I can assure you, we worked really hard to do that.
I like the old phrase, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if the city has a project, I like to hold us to the same standard. And that's why I'm asking you.
Yes, sir.
Trying to hold you to the same standard we would any private person coming in.
Understood.
So I do appreciate your consideration and look at that. And yes, I do agree. You're probably, we're preaching to the choir here since you're the one you sit on these county PRC type meetings. Thank you.
Ben, thanks for the report. Do you know the term root pruning? Have you heard of that term?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jarrett from University of Florida, as a botanist, commends that for any site which plans to encroach past the drip line. Have you got any of that planned?
I'm sure we do if we're encroaching on the ones we're looking to preserve. I'm sure we're going to follow all the standards that are necessary for any potential impacts to ensure that those trees that we're saying that we're going to preserve we're doing everything we can to not impact them in a negative way.
I remember talking to Mr. Jarrett about the characterization of the trees. It's a little different than what's in your report. I did not hear that 2 trees were sick. I heard that there was an improbable cause of shortness of life and then a possible, nothing likely, nothing sick, nothing drastic. So I would not, respectfully, I would characterize them as 4 healthy trees.
Yes, sir.
When you ask about the length of time, live oaks, Mr. Jarrett estimates, live hundreds of years, and the laurel oak, that one laurel oak, will live up to 100 years. And so I don't think they're in any danger of going away. We've got some examples anecdotally about paving right up to them and they still last, and others that have all sorts of room, they go away. So can you tell me, what attempts were made to move around the buildings or the parking to preserve the historic trees?
Originally when we looked at this site, we were focused on just the parcel we're using right now. And it became clear almost immediately when we started working with with Bentley, our design consultant, that in order to maintain operational capability at this site, which we need to do during construction, we were going to need to expand to the adjacent vacant parcel. And we do appreciate the city working with us. Your staff at the airport's been great to adjust and amend our lease to include that parcel. And then it became a situation of how do we construct this site and construct the things that we need and still maintain that operational capability. So as far as you've got to build the hangar so that you have a functioning hangar, and you can move stuff into there and the lab and all the workspaces and all that. So it's not just the buildings themselves. You've got, like I mentioned before, you got to maintain access around and the fire department's got to be able to access around. We have a helipad with a fuel island down there that's a fire hazard, obviously with fuel that we have to provide access to. We have mechanical systems. We have a chiller system that has to be constructed out there. That means you have all the underground piping. So all that was moved around. We spent countless numbers of meetings and working with our design consultant to try to maximize the amount of trees that we're preserving. And then you've got the stormwater system. And I talked about, the stormwater system that we're a dry retention system where we're trying to retain as much, if not all, of the water on site as we can. We know that that's something, you talk about practice what you preach, constructing a drainage system that meets these higher level storm events, but also a dry system that doesn't attract aviation birds and things like that for our aviation. You don't want them impacting the helicopters. So we spent quite a bit of time massaging the site, and frankly, these trees that are there now, they're very close to existing buildings. I mean, we're going to come in, even if we were able to move things around, you're still demoing those existing buildings, and you're working. I mean, some of them have branches that overhang parts of the buildings now. So based on all of that, that's why we're coming in and requesting. I know it's not easy approving historic tree removal, and trust me, I wouldn't be here asking for it unless I felt it was necessary.
Any other questions? Can we go while you're up there, Ben? Channing, would you come back up and put those 4 qualifiers up there on the screen again? There you go. So help me out. The only one that qualifies is the term for proposed public infrastructure. Is that right? The only one that applies. The rest of them do not apply.
For 2 of the trees, we did the 2 that the laurel oak and the other live oak. We did. They are a possible failure, so we deem them as structurally unsound.
You deem the trees structurally unsound?
Based on that, based on this criteria, they were the closest to align with posing imminent danger, structurally unsound. Yes, correct.
Pardon me?
But criteria number 3.
Number 3.
2 of them met criteria number 3.
Which of those go back, please?
Sorry.
Which of the 4 trees were deemed dead or diseased?
None of them were deemed dead or diseased. They were deemed
Which were structurally unsound?
Structurally unsound, correct, with a possible likelihood of failure.
The tree?
Yeah, correct.
Not according to the botanist report.
So that was interpreted as likelihood of failure being possible.
And what categories are above that?
Likely. Let me look at the
likely and imminent.
So there's improbable, possible.
There's only one less category to say the tree is healthy, and it's improbable.
Correct.
So based on the second most healthy criteria, go back to the other side. You guys have determined, the staff has determined that it is structurally unsound.
There's a possibility based on this that it is structurally
unsound. Based on what?
Based on Ray Jarrett's
That's
report.
not what he said. He said possible. Didn't say likely. Didn't say imminent. So I disagree with your analysis.
Okay.
Tell me, in your opinion, I asked the same question to Ben. What your I would like the city's opinion first. Talk to me about what your definition of public infrastructure is.
I prefer for Director Corbin to answer that question.
Okay.
Say it again, please, sir.
I'd like for Director Corbin to answer that.
Can't hear you.
I said I would like for Director Corbin to answer
perfect.
that.
Thank you.
Good evening. So utilities, the definition in our land development regulations includes but is not limited to potable and non-potable water systems, electrical power systems, gas systems, wastewater systems, stormwater management systems, telephone systems, and television cable systems. It covers a wide range of
I didn't hear mosquito control in there.
So then you go into public infrastructure per the APA. We don't.
And we don't have a definition for that in our land development regulations, but we do reference the American Planning Association. It would be any facility, including but not limited to buildings, property, recreation areas, and roads which are leased or otherwise operated or funded by a government body or public entity.
Okay, the wide net. Thank you, Shane. Appreciate that. Ben, have you got any opinion about why it's going to be called? I think number 2 is weak. Number 3 doesn't apply, in my humble opinion, and so I'm trying to understand just the tripwire, as I understand it, for most of this is number 2, which is existing installation or operation or maintenance of an existing or proposed public infrastructure. Do you have any other choices, any other places? You've got a place on Dora that is just an abysmal, it's the worst structure on the street. We talked about that briefly before. I just don't know if there are any other options other than the one you got.
Part of this, look at the additional, yes, thank you. I think we all agree it's public infrastructure, but part of this look at replacing this facility, which is something that has been looked at before I worked for the county, so over a decade. We examined potential sites outside of the airport. Mosquito control is a unique facility in terms of we got to be able to fly helicopters and things.
Got the flight thing. I'm with you.
Correct. And so, we looked at acquiring land in different parts of the county. Remember, we've got to be proximity-wise to the lagoon because we do a lot of treatment out in, they call it Mosquito Lagoon for a reason. And so a lot of the treatment that we provide is on very close to the water. So we looked at and analyzed different potential sites in terms of purchasing property versus leasing property at the airport. And frankly, we just couldn't find a better location that suited the needs and the operational needs of the mosquito control system. And I would remind the commission that, the funding for the mosquito control district is paid by your citizens. It is the East Volusia Mosquito Control District, which is assessed a millage rate throughout the eastern part of the county. We've been in existence since the 1930s. And so it's a critical mission. It's a public health mission. And, we value our partnership with the city and the city's airport. We believe there's no better location for it. And, we've worked hard to try to minimize the impact to the existing trees. These trees aren't on the new site. This isn't a situation where, you're going into an undeveloped piece of land like that new parcel where you might have a little more flexibility. But the reality is just going in and demoing some of these areas in and of themselves is going to be detrimental to these trees, having been in construction my entire life. And that's why you can see the areas of the trees that we are proposing to save are on the perimeter. We worked our stormwater ponds around those. We've massaged the site to preserve those trees as much as possible. Trust me, I understand the concerns. Nobody wants to remove a healthy historic tree, but it's a tough ask for us, but we wouldn't be here if there was any other way.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. The commission will now hear from members of the public wishing to comment in favor of or in opposition to HTR 2-25, the historic tree removal. Anyone from public participation? Yes, sir. Walt, sure.
Good evening. My name is Walter Bone, 607 Downing Street.
Speak right into the mic.
Sorry, Walter Bone, 607 Downing Street, NSB. I'm here as a resident, and I'm a licensed landscape architect. Live 3-4 minutes from here. Familiar with the facility. I've driven by it, and that general area. I also serve as a volunteer as the vice chair for the Historic Preservation Commission for New Smyrna Beach. And as a landscape architect, you know, these trees, I'm not a tree hugger, but I do love my trees and plants. And I just took I downloaded the packet and took a quick look, and I'm in 110% support this facility. But I guess, Mr. Mayor, you just brought up the fact that have you looked at, or you just asked the question, have you looked at other sites? And the possibility might be the recreation complex, where this site is located directly across the street is low-density single-family residential. Some nice homes along there. And currently this, the packet that everybody has, you know, there's some nice, beautiful trees. And this is an old facility, and it's outdated. You see, you know, staff are parking out along the road, and it's. And I feel sorry for the department and for the county themselves about how this site can be upgraded and improved. And I'll just skip through this packet. We don't need to get into all the details. But these nice gentlemen.
Walt, you got to talk into the microphone. I'm having
Sorry.
trouble hearing you.
All right. As these nice gentlemen were going over the trees, I know that I understand this is the first attempt at the site plan, the building layout, the demolition and everything. And Mr. Mayor, you brought up a great fact about the root pruning. You start about 3 months in advance. You start doing 20, 25, 30% of the roots. You start going down and digging in, allow them to scar up and heal up, and you go around a month later and do some more until you get 360 degrees around the tree. The survival rate on that is extremely high, regardless of the age and size of the trees. I've worked on projects around the world. I've lived overseas for 13 plus years, and in Dubai and in China, or Macau. We were moving trees that were much larger than this, where they actually went out there and dug up the roots, rolled them up, and transferred them on barges down the river and replanted them. And so we're not asking them to do this here. But just looking at the site plan, since it was just a first stab at it, so to speak, there are some possibilities here where we can, the site can be pushed back possibly, but I guess the first colored rendering you see, and again, please excuse my quick
Still can't hear you. You got to
quick
talk into
sketches.
the mic.
The first option is just shifting one of the drive aisles, entry aisles, where we can, you know, maintain and keep one additional tree there. And really no other work there. The parking needs to be kind of relooked at. There's not enough landscape islands out there. You have 10 spaces, you need to have a parking island, et cetera. And the second page is kind of just a new option, basically maintaining the same site plan, just kind of sliding it back about 65, 70 feet and shifting the drive aisle again, and we're able to preserve all but one of the historic trees. And the gentleman from Volusia County was stating, you know, the stormwater is very important, and having those sunken meadows, you know, we could use wildflower, or they can use wildflowers or something to attract pollinators and other, you know, dragonflies and everything else that will help with some of the insect control there as well. But it will also provide a larger landscape buffer along South Street that will give that nice visual, kind of filtered views through to the new complex, to the new buildings with some trees. And I would suggest for public properties, raising or increasing the size of trees, screening materials, instead of a 2.5 inch caliber tree, which will take, you know, more than a decade to get any decent relative size, depending on the species, of course. But come in with, you know, minimum, let's say 4-inch trees, minimum, 4 to 6 inch trees planted, and to give more of an instant effect when they're adjacent to residential properties, whether it be low density, single family residential, or even multifamily, or schools or what have you. But again, these are just, I'm 110% in support of the project, and just as a resident and a licensed landscape architect, in the last sketch is just showing some options for some of landscape buffer. But I just wanted to just throw a few words out there on what some of the other possibilities are with the current site plan without impeding on the efforts by Volusia County and by the city of New Smyrna Beach.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
your
you.
comments. Anyone else for public participation? Evening, Dr. Herman.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, City Commission, City staff. I know this is quasi-judicial, so I have no qualifications for saying what I'm about to say, but I'm testifying as a citizen. I find the city's argument very weak about what they're defining as sick trees. I don't think they've defended themselves very well at all. And I also have trouble with the argument from the county that they cannot build this structure in a way that can preserve these trees. Both, I think, need to be challenged. I know you have a tough decision ahead of you, but these are magnificent trees. It is a residential community on the other side of the street. I wasn't overly impressed with the rendering of the building. It isn't so great looking now. I would think the trees would add to whatever facade they eventually plan on. So I believe that these trees should be preserved and that the city votes to have them rework what they're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the comments. Anyone else for public participation? You'll get a chance to close at the end for sure, Ben. Public participation is now closed. Any closing remarks from the city staff? Any closing remarks from the applicant?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as far as, I probably didn't convey the difficulty in this site as far as adjusting the buildings as well, but one thing, because it's an airport, you got to meet FAA rules. And so, as the previous gentleman stated, as far as about sliding everything closer to the runway, that presents a difficulty because there's height requirements associated with buildings within a certain distance of the runway. So in a vacuum, doing and moving buildings around and doing a lot of this on a site, on a traditional site development project, which I've been a part of, there's less constraints in the nature of it being an airport and the FAA rules associated with where these buildings can go, and their height requirements also factors into that, and then obviously the aviation component and the flight paths of the helicopter. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Ben. Any other comments? Or yes, ma'am.
I just have a kind of a simple one, but we didn't have any issues with the shortage of number of trees per square footage, did we, overall? Was there any issues with that? If we're looking at the whole thing? I can't tell by this.
Sorry,
It's
say that
per 2,500, one tree per 2,500
We don't have a full picture right now as of today. We'll get into that in the site plan process.
But you don't foresee any issues with complying with our current landscape ordinance for that? Since it's not a brand-new site, we're modifying what we already have?
Correct. If they have to replant trees to meet the minimum, that has been outlined. So that will really come, again, whenever they get into the site plan process to see how many total they will remove, to see if they comply with the 1 per 2,500 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Channing. Any other questions for the staff?
Yeah.
Commissioner McGurk.
Channing, what happens in the process? I understand we can approve this tonight and then move forward with the formal site plan. If this did not get approved tonight, what does that process for the county look like in terms of them, with their ability to then come back, or what happens tonight if it's not approved, I guess is what I'm saying. How does that change the whole procedure in terms of what the county is trying to accomplish?
So we can rehash that with the county as far as what they might be able to do to preserve these trees, with recommendations from, that were made tonight, and then bring it back. We can bring it back with the site plan? Is that correct? I think we're doing that. Okay.
If you're going to have testimony, you got to do it at the microphone there, Mr. Gove.
When and if this does come back for site plan, the threshold for it to go to the Planning and Zoning Board for a public hearing would be a building size of 25,000 square feet. And I'm not sure offhand if the total of this facility meets that or not. But basically, it would go through the site plan process, the only difference being that whether we go to the Planning and Zoning Board for final approval.
So I'm inclined to approve this tonight because I don't believe the county has, I think Ben has shown, at least demonstrated that they have considered the trees significantly. It's not an easy property to develop. I hate removing of these 4 trees. I agree with the findings. Those 2 laurel oaks may or may not be in bad shape. The 2 live oaks are in great condition. It pains me. But I also look at number 4 where I read, applicant has demonstrated no other feasible options. That's a little subjective. Each person's going to be able to, interpret that the way they want. The way I see it is the mosquito control has been there for a long time. They're trying to maintain that spot. It's a great spot for them. It's a great spot for us. And I'm going to put faith in the ability for them, especially Ben, understanding this process that we're going through right now, has put considerable thought into what they can and can't do with the site plan. There is the corner of US 1 and Industrial that is sitting open. I don't know if that would be big enough or feasible to accommodate what they're trying to do, but I'm a little nervous at stymieing the process right now on the tree issue because I don't think they have disregarded the trees, and I think they've probably put considerable thought into how this can work out. If I was going to approve it tonight, I would like to have the site plan come back to us for approval, and I would hope that the county can take a look at these trees and our passion for trying to save as many of these 4 as we can into consideration when developing the site plan. But I'm inclined to move forward on it. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Martin.
Question, has anybody consulted with the airport on any issues they might have? Or are we assuming that we know the airport information?
Airport information as far as?
Well, there was discussion about the height of the buildings and trees with regard to the airport clearance for flight clearances. And I didn't know whether we were assuming that we knew the information about any of this site plan in relation to the airport's requirements, or have we actually consulted with the airport to see how we could work with them?
No, we weren't assuming, and we did consult because they just did their height reduction pruning as advised by the FAA about a week ago.
Okay.
They submitted for a permit, and these trees were not included in that height reduction practice.
So we didn't need to do that?
So we're talking about 2 different things. He's talking about trees, you're talking about the building. What's the building height encroachment?
For the actual site plan? Or are you talking about the buildings?
Talking about the buildings that are proposed.
I think,
very simply, what is the encroachment?
very simply, I think it's 35 feet.
And how tall is the building? I'm sorry, start over, please.
I'm sorry, the tallest building is 35 feet, 6 inches.
Tallest building is 35 feet?
Yes.
Does that include any rooftop appurtenances?
The roof is below.
Well, like
We have
an
a
air
parapet
conditioner or
no,
machinery?
No, there is no system on the roof. That's the tallest of the building. That's the parapet.
It's 35 feet, and the restriction's 35 feet?
That's correct.
So it's at this.
Correct.
It
Okay.
all depends on the position of the building with the site as well. It goes higher as far as we get from the airport itself. So the tallest part of the building is located on the east side, which is a little bit higher than 35 feet.
Okay.
It goes gradually higher.
It starts, it has a
starts
slope
at
to it.
35 and go gradually
The high end
higher.
is on the east
That's
side,
correct.
the low end's on the west side.
That's correct.
Yeah, as you get closer to the runway, the buildings have to be lower.
And it is lower. Got it.
I have another
Go-
question.
go ahead.
Did I understand correctly that this is a fill and build proposal as opposed to a stem wall?
Stem wall construction is not feasible for a facility like this. It is and the reason we are adding fill to the site is really as a function of the stormwater system itself.
So
that
we're
we can have a
creating, stormwater retention, the dry retention you
Correct.
mentioned, by bringing
elevating
in fill.
elevating the stormwater ponds above the current water, above the current water table.
I see, and how far is the existing land above the water table?
It's fairly low. I mean, I think the water table, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but I believe it's, I don't know what the seasonal high is. The civil person's gonna come up and tell us.
The current water table is probably within 2 feet of the existing
Right up to the
grade.
microphone.
I'm sorry. The current water table is probably within 2 feet of the existing grade, and so we have to bring fill, probably about average 4 feet, into the site to elevate the buildings, make sure that we can tie into the utility system, and then on top of that, we're providing floodplain compensating storage at like 200% of what we're impacting.
That area already has a lot of flooding.
And we're making it better.
We're retaining more water.
Yes, we're retaining more water, reducing flows out to Murray Creek, and providing additional floodplain compensating storage.
Yeah, I'm sorry, excuse me. So in other words, the post-development condition in terms of the volume and the discharge rate is better than the pre-development condition.
Forgive us, but I think we've all heard that before.
Well, I'm telling you, that's what we're doing right now, I can tell you. And that's part of what we talked about as far as, you know, putting our money where our mouth is when it comes to drainage and things like that, so.
But it's unfortunate. I mean, the 4 trees would provide a lot of stormwater absorption. I mean, we're losing a lot of natural stormwater retention if we take out those trees.
Just for clarity, this has not been reviewed by our engineering department at this point. So we're not even 100% sure that that amount of fill will be allowed or attainable.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other questions? Thank you, staff. Thank you, county. Just last comment. I'm not confident that all that could be done was done. I'm not sure about the encroachment on the airspace. There was a citizen that came up and said he re-wickered the layout that might work, so sounds like there's options. The tree characterization is incorrect. 2 trees dying, 2 other trees okay. That's inaccurate according to the arborist. And so I don't speak in favor of this. And it's hard because Mr. Bartlett does so many great things for the city from a county perspective. And I want to treat you properly, and I want to give you all that you need to deliver the mosquito control that we absolutely have to have. Airport options, I think maybe one of the other commissioners pointed out, hey, if you looked at any other space around the airport, maybe that's an answer. And I don't believe the staff has done that either. So I speak in opposition. Any other discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
I don't think there's a motion yet.
Ah.
I'll make
I would like to-
I'll make a motion. Go ahead.
I would just, if you indulge me, 2 things. Mr. Bartlett, are you all open for a continuance to see if any of these issues could be avoided and maybe ask for a lesser ask?
Based on our working on the site and everything that we've done coming into this meeting, for us, we don't see any other option other than the removal of these trees. So,
Okay, then the commission, I would just advise you all that we have an adopted policy. We explored a lot of different avenues that weren't necessarily relevant to the criteria you're looking at today, the discussion regarding specimen trees, the stormwater. The criteria you're applying is, does it meet one of these 4 criteria? Your professional staff has entered a staff report that says it does. Each of the 4 trees either meets 1 criteria or 2 criteria. I don't know that we've qualified the gentleman in the audience as an expert, but I just would remind you that this is quasi-judicial. Your criteria is in front of you on the screen, and it either meets the criteria or it doesn't.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Martin.
No.
Commissioner Perrine.
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk.
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley.
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
No. Motion carries. All right. Thank you, county. Thank you, staff. Let's move on to public hearings. Madam City Attorney, if you don't mind reading 2025, conduct a second reading and public hearing on ordinance which adopted would grant a non-exclusive franchise agreement to Wall Rose, Inc.
Ordinance number 2025, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach granting a non-exclusive franchise to Wall Rose, Inc. to provide construction and demolition debris removal services within the City of New Smyrna Beach, outlining franchisees' duties, providing terms and conditions under which such franchise shall operate, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. I see our Public Works Director, Ray, at the bat. We're ready for your report, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. This is a standard ordinance to allow for roll-off services for C&D material throughout the city. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Ray? Hearing none. Public hearing is now open. If there are citizens who wish to speak, please come forward on this topic and you'll be heard. Breno, you going to speak? Okay, just checking. Public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 2025?
So moved.
A motion
Second.
and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perrine.
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk.
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been adopted. And now on to ordinance 3025, which is a second reading public hearing, which if adopted would grant a non-exclusive franchise agreement to MLJ Drywall, Inc. Madam City Attorney, if you will read 3025 for the second time, please.
Ordinance number 3025, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach granting a non-exclusive franchise to MLJ Drywall, Inc. to provide construction and demolition debris removal services within the City of New Smyrna Beach, outlining franchisees' duties, providing terms and conditions under which such franchise shall operate, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Ray, your report, sir.
This is another ordinance, just like the previous one, standard, non-exclusive for C&D material.
Any questions on the proposal for MLJ Drywall Company? Is there a motion? I'm sorry, public hearing. Anybody from the public who wants to speak on this topic, come forward and you'll be heard. Public hearing is now closed. Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt 3025?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Madam City Clerk, you call the roll.
Commissioner McGurk.
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine.
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes, ma'am. Motion is approved. And now on to 3125, second reading and public hearing, which if adopted would amend Section 3, Section 5220, and Section 5221 of the City Code of Ordinances, which would update the impact fee study and the rates for road impact fees. Madam City Attorney, 3125, second time by title only, please.
Ordinance number 3125, an ordinance amending the City of New Smyrna Beach Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 52 Comprehensive Impact Fee Ordinance, Sections 5220 and 5221 to adopt the City of New Smyrna Beach 2025 Impact Fee Study related to road impact fees and impose the revised rates, providing for codification, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Mr. Corbin, I'm ready.
Good evening again. As you recall, before we took the break, we had a consultant come in from Orlando and give a very long presentation on this, and answered everyone's questions. I didn't ask her to come back tonight and go through that whole exercise, but the short and the long of it, transportation fees, impact fees, or a fee that we can charge new development at the beginning, we process it with our building permits. The county gets a stab at that, and we do as well. And we have to share from the overall pie that can be actually charged. The county recently updated their fees, and where they had previously not been charging their full amount, they exercised their option to charge the full amount, which left a smaller piece of the pie for us. So unfortunately, when we redid the calculations for ours, our fees are going down, and that cycle is every 5 years. So in 5 years, we may be able to bring these back up again, certainly, hopefully, before Deering Park gets online. But these fees cannot be negotiated. They are what they are. We need to move forward with adoption. If we don't do that, then we risk actually overcharging for what we can. So we need to get this corrected and get it adopted.
Questions for Director Corbin? Mr. McGirt.
Briefly, I'm looking at the non-residential. You're saying one thing, but I'm slipping here mentally here with the existing and calculated. You're saying we're going to reduce the fees. The existing is 2080 on retail, and we're going to calculate.
It looks like that is one category where it's going up slightly.
Almost 25%.
But where we're going to do most of our action is going to be in single family. And that's going down from 1752 to 1728.
So the irony in this is the small business guy gets hosed and the big developer gets a lower cost. That's the way I see it, which is, it's mind-boggling to me, but, it's kind of like the middle class always getting the highest tax rate.
So what if we say no?
If we say no, Carrie, I think
We'd have some liability for collecting fees that we cannot collect. Currently, we need to change the ones that need to be reduced right away.
So how do we, all right, so today we're getting more of the pie, we're going to get less of the pie. What is how come it's a liability? And then follow-on question.
You're double charging. You're double charging a person.
So how much do you need? How much money do you need? If we're going to get less of the pie, and I'm assuming you spend everything you get now, you're going to get less. How are we going to make that up?
We'll have to either reduce spending or pull out of the general fund, I would think, for road projects, or get grants or money from TPO.
We have a fairly sizable fund balance in the Transportation Impact Fee Fund. And part of this analysis that I read and heard in the presentation, the county is taking a bigger share, which leaves less for us. But the volume of projects that the city has is much less than the volume of projects on state and county roads. So we can only spend this money on city roads, and we can only spend this money on projects on city roads to increase capacity. So if you look citywide, the number of full city intersections where we may have to do intersection widening projects, city roads where we may have to widen city roads, there's not a plethora of those roads. So the reality is more of the projects are on state and county roads, so they're taking a greater percentage. And this is why, as I started out the evening talking about transportation, this is why we need to be coordinating now with the state and the county on these big transportation projects on our major highways so that we can continue to increase the capacity of those roads without having to overburden our taxpayers. So there's two things at play here. It's the projects that we have and that we're projecting that we will need to do, and the projects that the county has, so that they're taking a bigger share of the funds that are available. That makes sense?
Yes, I so appreciate your insertion. It's much more clear to me now. Let me play it back, make sure I get it. The city is flush with what our expansion capabilities or prospects would be. You don't see any as you've looked out across the city, but the county and the state have much that they will take on and much that they will need a bigger piece of the pie to complete.
Correct.
Got it.
I don't like to use the word flush with cash, but there is revenue that is unspent right now. And it won't stay that way for long because we're.
That's right, that's right. That's right. Good point, especially when you get done with this study and figure out all the things you want to do. Okay, well, that helps tremendously. Anything else from you, Shane?
That's all I've got.
Very good. Thank you so much.
And one other point, if you do not change the ordinance, then we are compelled by ordinance to continue collecting the fee that is currently on the books, and that would result in us overcharging home builders, developers, which would put us in the liable position that the city attorney is talking
I think that's what the
Yes.
city attorney was trying to say, and I didn't understand it, but I do now. Public hearing is now open. Does any member of the public wish to speak on this topic? Please come forward. You'll be heard. Seeing none, and the chief shaking his head, we will close public hearing. Is there a motion to adopt 3125?
So moved.
A motion and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Ashley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. And now on to item number 31, item 10D, which is ordinance 3525, second reading, public hearing of an ordinance which adopted would give non-exclusive franchise rights to Lightning Dumpster LLC. Madam City Attorney, for the second time by title only, please.
Ordinance number 3525, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach granting a non-exclusive franchise to Lightning Dumpster LLC to provide construction and demolition debris removal services within the City of New Smyrna Beach, outlining franchisees' duties, providing terms and conditions under which such franchise shall operate, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Director Ray, one more time, please.
Again, a standard non-exclusive franchise for C&D material for roll-offs.
Any questions for the director on Lightning Dumpster LLC? Public hearing is now open. Any citizens who wish to speak can approach the podium at this time. Seeing none, public participation is now closed. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 3525?
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
And a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes. 3525 has been adopted. Let's move on to ordinances and first readings. Madam City Attorney, first time by title only, please.
Ordinance number 3825, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the Code of Ordinances. Amending Chapter 58, Parks and Recreation, to add Section 58.4, Use of City Docks and Boat Ramps, establishing time limitations for mooring at city-owned docks, providing for codification, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be July 22nd, 2025.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that.
Ordinance number 3925, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach, Florida, rezoning 3.3 plus or minus acres of land generally located along the south side of State Road 44 between Wildwood Drive and Wild Orange Drive from PUD Planned Unit Development to PUD Planned Unit Development Zoning District, approving the New Smyrna Beach Medical Complex and Wellness Center Planned Unit Development Master Development Agreement, authorizing the mayor to execute the New Smyrna Beach Medical Complex and Wellness Center Planned Unit Development Master Development Agreement, providing for a public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be July 22nd, 2025.
Madam City Attorney, if I recall, did you want to have a discussion about that before we wander into the 22 July?
If you all have comments that staff needs to address prior to the public hearing, they are here tonight. They might be able to answer some of the questions. We did hear some questions in briefing, so they are here tonight for questions or comments.
Everybody remember that one? This is the medical center near the ABC. Public participation was heavy and lots of discussion. Any questions for staff? I got one, I'll start it. Low-lying right now, floods every time. Did I hear it right? After it's done, after the thing is built, Shane, it'll actually retain more water than it is today?
Well, they are proposing an exfiltration system, and there should not be more post-runoff than pre-runoff. They'll model it before any construction is done. They'll get those numbers, and then they'll design a system that won't exceed the runoff. It should, in theory, hold that.
Runs off a lot today. There's a path already. I've driven it. There's a path that runs back in and floods their neighborhood. Is there any consideration? Have we even approached the idea of them making it? I think the number they put out would be 80% retention. Is there any conversation about making it 100% retained on site?
Apologize,
No, I see
Kyle's
this-
not here.
That's
but-
all right. I see the storage firm is here represented, so maybe there's a, and Mr. Doust is here as well, so that's good.
Good evening, Joey Posey, 420 South Nova. I'll let Matt speak, obviously, to the engineering, but a few points I wanted to just make the commission aware of is that part of the discussion that came out of Planning Board is the utilization of the COZ zone and trying to capture stormwater to the best of our ability in that area too. So that is something that we're committing to as part of our design, above and beyond your minimum requirements, and also ensuring that the new adopted city standards are the standards that remain the city standards in this PD as it moves forward. So I'll let Matt speak to those specifics, but above and beyond, we're trying to incorporate that frontage area in addition to meeting your heightened standards that you adopted recently. So, but I'll let him speak to the other part of it, the question.
Mr. Posey, may I ask a question prior to his testimony?
Correct.
So are you voluntarily agreeing to the ones that Deering Park had agreed to, the 25 stormwater regulations? Is that, you said recently
I need a refresher
adopted?
on that.
Okay.
That's in the PUD.
Oh, right. To the, the adopted ordinance? The ordinance?
No, it references the updated standards.
Oh, perfect. Yes, the updated standards,
Okay,
correct.
so you're voluntarily agreeing to that?
Correct, that's correct.
What do you think, Matt?
Well, Matthew Dowson, Mark Dowson Associates. As an engineer, we would look before you and we'd probably ask to go back to the original regulations, but we did agree when we went to the planning board. We got 5 votes that said yes, and we are agreeing to the higher stormwater standards, which if this got tabled or we went to the next, or another developer, they'd probably be held to the current standards, which reenacted back to that date. For holding 100% of stormwater on site, we did bring this up into the planning board. Obviously, the site is heavily looked at. We are maxed out with what we can put on our site underground and within the rear retention pond. So during that process with the planning board, we brought up, I said, we have the COZ buffer overlay zone. You got 25-foot utility easement, 50-foot landscape buffer. Been doing a lot of work in New Smyrna for a long time, and I believe that COZ buffer was established to preserve natural vegetation on the 44 corridor. We've had plenty of projects that have done that. In this essence, this site, within that 50-foot corridor, 50-foot wide, there's not much vegetation in it. So based on the COZ overlay, we are required to plant based on what you're expecting to be there naturally. So that's a heavily wooded site, and we have agreed to do that. So what we asked the planning board, which was actually adopted in the recommendations, was if we could have the ability, if we all want additional stormwater above and beyond, if we could have some sort of ability through the site plan process to utilize that 50 foot, that's about the entire size of our exfiltration trench under the ground. So we could, honestly, we could do exfiltration trench. We already have dry retention in the back, and essentially the front could be an additional dry retention that's holding at least the water that's leaving the site after a rainstorm event. It would hold that no matter what. But based on the grading, we might be able to even hold more. We don't have that exact science right now. We haven't designed it. This was just a thought that came up with planning board. But if we have the ability to do so, we'd be happily able to design by that.
Can you offer an estimate? How much more retention after than before would you estimate based on your calculations?
So based on our calculation, it's pre-post. So we have to match what's existing leaving there. Is it a percent? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? It's probably going to fall somewhere in that range. It's exfiltration, so it goes back into the water table underneath the ground. And it's all based on how much fill you brought into the site. So I think when you brought up, can we hold 100% stormwater retainage on site? The only physical way to do that is filling the site 5 feet, 6 feet, and it's all just stored in the pore storage. And at that point, it pretty much makes this site undevelopable for this use. We already have obstacles based on, it used to be 2 buildings in the original PUD. We combined that to 1 building. We asked to reduce the parking from 10 foot wide to 9 foot wide to preserve more natural vegetation. And on our site, we're actually exceeding the minimum tree protection. So our envelope, as you look at the site, is actually very little development based on the cross section, based on the square footage.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. Yes, sir, Mr. McGurk.
Mayor, you whet my appetite. I wasn't. Matt, thank you for the comments. You articulated well. The idea, from what I've heard, not saying that this is what's happening, but from a general area, this property, water crosses this property to go into a Turnbull watershed canal or creek. So if we build this property, I'm assuming on the assumption that there is water that comes from surrounding properties to cross over this water to go into the natural flow of the creek. How are you going to be able to deal with that water that comes across? Is that not in your calculations? You're calculating it based on the size of the property and calculations with how much rain or stormwater should be. We're not basing that calculation on the fact that there may be a stream of water that comes across the property from other property. This kind of might be an unusual piece of property where there's it doesn't necessarily retain the water, but the water crosses it into the process of going into the stream. You're not able to then contain all that water and prevent it from backing up, or how would you prevent it from backing up into surrounding properties if you impeded that natural flow? You can't hold it all, right?
Yeah.
How you're going to not impede it to back up into places it's not backing up into now?
So I see where you're coming at. It's in by law, based on even St. John standards or city standards, you can't stop water that's flowing through your site to another site. I mean, you're damming up water. If you collect that water and you don't do a bypass, then you have to treat that water. So it's treating it to a higher standard and attenuate it. So based on, this site was previously engineered, previously designed, and previously approved, which is amazing for an engineer to get a set of plans before you actually start designing it. So they went through that same process, and what they had is they had like a rear bypass swale that discharged it to the low bleeds areas. In this area, there's two things that are going on. You have surface flooding that's upstream, and then you have the tailwater condition that's downstream. We all know, elevations are around elevation 5, and we've been dealing with a lot of flooding. When that river hits elevation 5 and the surrounding properties are elevation 5, that water is not going to elevation 5 until elevation 5 goes down to 4. So you got a tailwater effect that actually pushes back onto the properties. So in this essence, we would bypass, it would be a bypass swale. It could even potentially be something in the COZ buffer that helps bypass the water that are adjacent neighborhoods. So we're trying to maximize not the development on our property, but maximize the potential of preserving vegetation. And in essence, if we have to bypass a swale, that would give us some engineering tools in the COZ buffer and on the south side of the site, which that would be where the water would be directed.
Thank you.
Commissioner Martin.
Yeah, I've had a lot of questions about traffic and right turns onto 44 and complaints that they're going to go down and have to make a U-turn to go west, and what's that generally going to do in that area? Will there be a traffic impact study?
Yes, there will be. The commitment that we've made is that the impact study would be put together as part of the site plan, which would move forward together with that package. We did do a preliminary study just to analyze the zoning impacts, to just get a sense of what we were looking at. And again, it was minimal to none based on the existing entitlements. The things I think I want to point out are the commitments we've made to this being a medical office facility, where its previous iterations took the shape of hotels and other much more impactful uses from a traffic perspective. And the other thing we committed to is that the business hours are weekdays. So when we're talking about peak hour traffic, which I'm sure the weekends is something we don't want traffic, that this will not be a site that's utilized for that purpose. So there's a lot of pluses to effectively controlling the impact of this site from a traffic perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks. Appreciate the city staying around, and thank you, Matt and Joe. Appreciate it. All right. On to the city clerk's report on the boards.
So the city clerk's office is advertising for board vacancies to encourage resident participation and engagement. Our first board vacancy we have is for historic preservation. And in the staff report, you'll see the background for historic preservation and the membership requirements. For this appointment, we have 2 vacancies and 1 reappointment that'll come before commission. And the second board vacancy notice is for the Utilities Commission. And also in that staff report, you'll find the history and the background and the membership requirements for the Utilities Commission. For this appointment, we will have 1 reappointment and 1 appointment for the Utilities Commissions. So we just encourage our residents to apply at the website of the clerk's office.
So this is an advertisement to the community at large
advertisement.
to sign up for either the Historic Preservation Board or the Utility Commission.
Correct.
All right, got it. Thank you. All right, on to Commissioner and Mayor reports. Vice Mayor.
No report this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Perrine.
No report.
Commissioner Ashley.
No report.
Commissioner McGurk.
I got a report. And I'm usually not the one that doesn't have much. Okay. First of all, 4th of July, fantastic. It was great. I got a table at the comedy show, and that was great. I was very surprised and impressed with how many staff members that we had working that. Found that very interesting. They did an amazing job. It's a great idea. It worked great. So I want to commend that whole group, Rob's group, Jonah's group. I want to say call him Noah for a second. I knew that was wrong. So Jonah's group at the Brandon Center and Rob's group over at Leisure Services did an amazing job on that. That went off fantastic, and I spoke to a number of people who attended, and they were very happy about it. The police did an amazing job. I've had 0 complaints about our 4th of July, which is amazing. And it was a good weekend. It didn't rain. We were busy as heck on Beachside. The businesses were jamming. So great job by the city as a whole. So tremendous job, and a lot to be said about that. Susan Radigan came up about Epic. Generally, what she says is right. They're still doing what they've always done. They want to nail themselves to a cross and claim that they are such a great partner, but yet, year after year, the same problems persist. Every single day, people in my neighborhood have planes going over their home or planes going over an area where they're supposedly not supposed to go over or not going to go over. So that is something that is, the teapot is simmering. It's going to boil over. And I think this is probably as good a time as any. After my public meeting that I had, sometime, I believe it was around August, September, which was a very good meeting, had an opportunity to meet with the owner of Epic, met at my office. I had what I thought was a very good conversation with him. He was to get back to me on the top 2 or 3 things that were recommended out of the public meeting that were the most important to the community people who showed up. I waited. Carrie got a letter from an attorney asking for a cease and desist. Apparently, Epic did not like the idea that we were holding public meetings, talking to constituents, and wanting to work something out with them. And this is contrary to what the owner of Epic said to me. We were very gracious. We had a great talk. We agreed on everything. He went as far as to say that, and I quote, "Their problem is real." Then I get a cease and desist from an attorney, which I was deeply, deeply disappointed by, and here's why. The attorney was John Ferguson. The law firm was Cobb & Cole. That was a Bush League kind of letter that was sent to me that was very inaccurate. We responded with a letter stating it was inaccurate. And then I said, oh, by the way, what's your position on these things? We'll get back to you. So they've blown us off, and that's where we sit. And so we have taken time. We have put a lot of time into this, and the best they can do is send a letter of intimidation to me to try to back off this and try to tell me I can't speak to my constituents in the community. So unfortunately, that's where it's at. And I hope and I would expect that Epic will put a good foot forward and be willing to have conversations. I've asked for a meeting with both me, city attorney, the city manager, airport manager, and the owner of Epic to be in a room so we can ask the basic questions that have been asked. What are you willing to do? And, you know, we'll get back. Don't call us. We'll call you was the answer. So that's where we're at. That's it, Mayor.
Okay, certainly a breath of winter. Thank you. Just to continue, I thought we had made such great progress. All those I attended some of your public meetings, and I thought that Arvin did a masterful job of reaching out to the citizens and to the aviation concerns, and that we were actually making some really great progress. We modified a flight path. We did a couple other dawn to dusk type things. I mean, so to hear the report that says nothing is being done didn't line up with what I'd heard. Significant participation from the public on parking. Sapphire, for sure. You know, my hat's off to the manager for the various initiatives around town on parking. The Sapphire one has been willy-nilly parking for a long time, and now we're trying to put some structure into it. To walk the dog back and say, no, there should never be any parking there seems like a bridge too far, and I don't know the intent of the donation or purchase. I'll need to get in with the city attorney and find out what was happened. Did the property get donated with restrictions, or was it purchased? And then if it's the city property purchased, the city should be able to do what's in the best interest of the majority of the citizens. On a brighter note, Juneteenth happened during our recess, and talk about an amazing production put on by 2 of our city staff members and a committee of residents. The Brennan Center's never looked so good. It's never been used so well. It's never been attended so well, a sellout crowd, and the performances were inspiring. So I couldn't say more about how pleased and proud I was of our committee work and our 2 city staffers that really made the difference there. The last was congratulations to the fire department. They ordered a truck 4 years ago. It came in. They've been borrowing and begging and what have you from other departments. We have ordered several more trucks, which will be here in two or 3 years, and thankfully we did that. This was a step in the right direction, and the fire department under Chief Vandermark's leadership continues to do great things. In addition, it was great to see some promotions, new battalion chief for Station 53, and some other folks that were promoted right up the chain. So well done to the fire department. And that's it from me. Madam City Clerk, anything further?
No report at this time.
Madam City Attorney, your legislative update, ma'am?
Yes, I think we've talked quite at length about Senate Bill 180. So the governor did sign it. The legislative session has ended. They adopted a budget. But really, our main focus was on Senate Bill 180. That was the reason why we withdrew the landscape ordinance tonight. We're going to have to go back through and make sure that nothing we adopt is more restrictive or burdensome. That time frame is until October 1, 2027. Same with stormwater. We're going to have to repeal that ordinance. But as many developers that we can get to voluntarily agree to those standards, the better. But we're not going to be able to force them, unfortunately.
So just for public consumption, the city's good work over the past several years for stormwater management has been preempted by a state bill, Senate Bill 180.
We're essentially in a holding pattern because we were a city in one of the designated counties for, I believe it's Hurricane Milton. There were 3 different named storms that it impacted. So there's a 3-year essentially hiatus from 8/1/24 to 10/1/27. So that's one part of the bill. The other 2 significant portions of the bill is moving forward. If we're impacted by a storm, declared federal disaster, there's going to be a 1-year stay on us trying to do anything to improve our regulations.
Should there be a storm this year, that means it will move to 28.
No. So right now we're under 27. So once 27 hits, if a storm comes along, then we'd be blocked till 28. So just 1 year from the date of the storm, once we're out of this initial 3-year period.
Got it.
The third provision of that Senate bill that was detrimental to us is in regard to our flood rating system. We have a good, and I'm probably using the wrong terminology, community rating system, where we have one of the lowest ones in Volusia County. There's a lot of different factors that go into that, but one of those factors deals with your substantial improvement period. So in the city of New Smyrna Beach, if you're in a flood zone and you're trying to rebuild, you can't exceed improvements to the property that exceeds 51% of the value of the property. Well, our ordinance said over a 10-year period. So it would all add up. And once you hit that threshold, then you wouldn't be able to rebuild. You'd have to build to new standards. The Senate Bill 180, what they did is struck that and said you can't have a cumulative substantial period. It's 1 year. So somebody could put in 49.99% year one, and year two they can do 49.99%. So they just continue to rebuild as long as they don't exceed that 51% threshold. So the negative impact is that may go into lowering our rating. You know, a lot of different factors there, but that is a potential that rating also gets us a reduced flood insurance rate. So I think for each point you drop, you lose. So the lower the rating, you get a 5% reduction in your flood insurance rate. So if we drop, and I think the numbers are opposite, if we go up a number, we would lose a 5% reduction in the flood insurance. That applies to all of our citizens, not just the city.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
When you're talking about the 49.1%, is that, let's say you have $100,000 and you do 49%, so now it's a $149,000 house. The next year is the 49%.
If
on
the appraiser
149.
increases your value based on those improvements, but I would think if you're doing improvements like that, you may be just going back to your standard value, but that'd be a mathematical calculation depending on how the appraiser.
We understand why I'm asking. Are we talking about a base year, or are we doing it on the existing value of the
It
next
doesn't
year?
go to that, so I would assume it's every year. Every year they're going to look at the
So it would
assessed
go
value.
100 to 149 to, what would that be?
It's based on the appraised value at the time that the improvements are made.
Okay, so again, if I improve my property 49% this year, and so that would raise my appraisal.
Not necessarily, because you might be recovering value that was damaged as part of the storm.
Well, I may have, or I may just have improved at 49%, but then the other question becomes then, are we now dealing with 49% over 149?
Not necessarily.
Not, but possibly.
It just depends. The answer is it depends.
It depends on the improvements that are made.
Good lawyer answer. It depends.
I know.
Yes.
Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate that. Just for the edification of everybody, I did reach out to 3 of our state representatives, Senator Wright, Senator Tremont, or Representative Tremont, and the freshman from Ormond Beach, Representative Partington, Bill Partington. I have a letter I'll share with the commission and put it in public record of the opinion of Senator Wright about what Senate Bill 180 will or will not do to us. And then I have Bill Partington, the freshman, who is a seasoned lawyer. He says that this legislation's not over with. We may live with it for a year, but there's nothing in this next year that we couldn't fix through the judicial system. And so amendments could come back. There are techniques, and he's optimistic because he, Bill Partington, mayor of Ormond Beach forever and a day, felt like this was a terrible idea in a lot of instances. But he's reassured as a freshman, and I asked him, are you just getting knocked around because you're a freshman, you got to play ball, or do you know about remedies? And he knows about the remedies. So we may have to live with it for a year, but he assures me that if we continue to act, and League of Cities is on this, there's another couple municipalities that are on this, we could actually eat back some of our good work that we did. Speaking of good work, city manager went, and we went to the legislature this past year and lobbied for some money. We did get $1 million to contribute to the West Side Historic District Stormwater Master Plan. So good on Representative Wright for delivering that. And thank you, Tom. We appreciate that. Mr. Manager, your report, sir.
Nothing else, sir. Thank you.
Excellent. Without objection, we're adjourned.